Let's podcast. Alongside Joe Giglio, I'm Joe Ovies. We are inside Eford Studios in downtown Raleigh, thanks to Empire Properties. And as always, thanks to Copiers Plus. It is our OG Year in Review 2025. Maybe you're doing a year in review. Man, I could really save some money in 2026. Easy way to do it with print costs, document management, all thanks to our friends at Copiers Plus. So check them out online at copiers-plus.com. Joe, before we get into the OG Year in Review 2025, I was walking into the studio. We very rarely get mail.
I don't even know how. Yeah.
So we got a letter from OG Media LLC's #1 investor, my dad.
Yes.
My dad's single-handedly keeping the post office in business.
Got a Christmas card from your parents. Yes.
Okay.
Not just your dad.
It's a Festivus miracle. A Festivus miracle. See, did my dad send us any money? I love when we get money.
No, Festivus is about complaints, not about...
You're right. No, it is about complaints. May the airing of grievances be short, the feats of strength be friendly, and the miracles be many. Happy Festivus for the rest of us. He wrote this all in Spanish, so I'm going to translate here. And essentially, here are my grievances with the OG podcast. You never talk baseball. That's number one. You never talk about soccer. Although, wait a minute.
Hold on.
We talked about soccer last week, thanks to NC State. And I don't even know what this means. Hablan poco del baloncesto afuera. I don't even know what that means.
Something with fire?
Something about
outside.
Something about outside in the triangle?
Oh, something outside the triangle. Basketball outside the triangle.
I don't even know what that means. I don't know. I'll have to ask my dad. My Spanish is awful.
I mean, there's Google right in front of you. But...
It's fine. It's no big deal. Okay. I'm not really concerned about it. You know what? I'm going to see him.
You'll ask him.
Theoretically, I've already seen him. Theoretically, since this is running at midnight.
M-Stones.
Speaking of which, you know how I get sometimes. It's like, do we really want to do this? But then I start going down the rabbit hole. And then you start realizing, oh, yeah, we did that this year. You talked about the gemstones. Man, I forgot about Destination Charlotte, which then turned into Destination Dayton. Okay.
We pivoted pretty quickly on that.
We had to pivot. We had to pivot on that one. So with this year in review, it's very similar to how we did Brief History of Triangle Sports. There's going to be a little free jazz here. But I do want to set the table for what this year in review really will come down to. Dave Doeren, I know what you're thinking. 2025 was the year of Bill Belichick. It wasn't. 2025 was the year of Cooper Flagg. Not really. There was
it could have been.
I mean, there was all sorts of stuff that was going on in 2025. But I noticed a through line starting in January all the way through the end of the year.
All right, so our season starts here, is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, our season technically started at the end.
Okay.
With losing a bowl game.
Lose bowl game.
Yes.
Catch strays on the OG sports phone.
Yes. So as 2025 progressed, it really did start with the Military Bowl.
So
now, I know the Military Bowl happened at the end of 2024,
yes.
but we did a mailbag to start the year. And I had to go back and look. We had anywhere between 60 to 70 calls following the Military Bowl.
Okay. So NC State goes to Annapolis. They take on ECU. They lose 26-21. Remember, Rajay Harris had an 86-yard touchdown run to essentially give the Pirates the win late in the fourth quarter. It was 3rd and 10 from ECU's own 14. When he pops off an 86-yard touchdown run to essentially seal NC State's fate for the year. That was their 5th straight bowl loss. And the 6-7 record marked the first time in Dave Doeren 2.0 that he had a losing record at 6-7.
So you could imagine that the sports phone was popping off.
And that was year 13. No, that was year 12. That was year 12.
And there was a fight at the end of that game, too.
There were fights at the end of the Carolina game and the end of the ECU game. So there was a lot of lack of discipline, if you will.
And Dave was super pissed about that stuff. And of course, his next football season started with ECU, which then got us to the season starts, right?
Season starts.
And then, of course, they win that game, but you coined the phrase, even when NC State wins, Dave Doeren loses, right?
Correct.
So you'll notice as the year goes along, there is a through line of Dave Doeren. And I'll just go ahead and start with the end. Dave, 2020.
We're back to the end.
2025.
Wait.
Because they beat Carolina.
Yeah. Dave is the best.
Roasts us, right?
Yep. Well, it was me mostly.
That's fine.
You don't need to catch a strike. You don't need to catch a strike.
Joe, it's you and me. It's an LLC. Everything's 50-50.
Not you.
It's whatever.
Okay.
So the year ends. So all through 2025, Dave Doeren is this through line. So I'm going to start with the end in that it wasn't the year of Bill Belichick. It was not the year of Cooper Flagg. It's not anything else. It really was the year of Dave Doeren, not the reckoning in Will Wade, not the firing of Kevin Keats. Dave Doeren has a role in every single one of these stories through 2025. All of them.
Back in the day when Sports Illustrated had their Sportsman of the Year, Dave Doeren would be the OG Sportsman of the Year.
So let's go back to the OG mailbag on January 3rd of this year. We got 60 to 70 calls. I went back and I looked and I distilled them into 10 calls, real-time phone calls from Annapolis, immediate post-game reaction, and then all right, I had some time to sleep on it. I sobered up, and here's what I think. But I thought this call really encapsulated the entire vibe.
I'm driving back. Well, my wife is driving me back because I had quite a few. From Cary, Raleigh, I don't know where the fuck I was. Back to Alamance County, where I'm from. I'm staying with my parents, having a delightful time. But I'm not having a delightful time tonight because I just watched the boiled egg of a college football coach lose to East Carolina. Do I know where East Carolina is? No. Do I know where Greenville is? No. Is that like the northeast part of the state? Is that near Virginia Beach? I have no fucking clue because that's such a stupid fucking school that I do not care about any other time than when we play them in football. And guess what? They beat us every fucking time. And I don't know why. And then the stupidest person I knew from high school is going to text me, hey, ha, 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 beat your ass. And the boiled egg of our coach, who, beats who he's supposed to, gets 8 wins a season. Guess what he didn't get this season? 8 wins. Guess who he didn't beat this season? Wake Forest and Duke. So I'm fucking tired of Dave Doeren. He never got the big win. He never got the big season. It's just been boring, boring, boring. I was a senior. We beat Florida State, and guess what? Florida State sucked ass that year. That was his big win. And then everyone's like, oh, he beat Clemson last year. Clemson went fucking 8-4. We had NJ Morris as the quarterback. Anyone could have beat their dumbasses. I don't know. It's just so goddamn depressing. NC State finally showed that we can do good things in basketball, and we should just give up on football. No one gives a fuck. Like, every NC State fan that gives a shit about football is stupid. I'm sorry. They might as well be an ECU fan. They're so goddamn stupid. That's all I gotta say. Fire Dave Doeren. If Robert and I is the coach on Monday, Dave Doeren should be fired. Drew Corrigan should fire his ass. I'm sorry, this call is going long. And I saw on the message board that the defensive coordinator was going to get promoted. Great fucking job, Dave Doeren. You are so goddamn stupid.
I think that nailed it.
I mean, a little harsh on ECU.
You can't lose to ECU.
I forgot about Robert and I. I'm not going to lie to you. I forgot that was a thing. I also forgot, this is the 23 season.
Mm-hmm.
Right? No, the 24 season.
24
this is 25.
season.
So the 24 season that he did lose to Wake, Duke, and ECU.
Yeah.
But
he
beat Carolina.
Hey. There it is on the cycle.
Sent Mac home packing.
There it is in the cycle. As I was going through these things, I also had forgotten about this rant. Because also around this time, there was this existential freak out about the Canes. Stop me if you've heard this one before. The Canes are going through some ups and downs, and everybody's freaking out. And you know what? Rod, the power play. Gotta fire Rod. And arguably, Rod probably did his best work last year, if you really think about it.
Yes.
And I had forgotten about this rant.
If he doesn't put the fucking super line together.
That's not it. That was Mikko. This is this one.
Can you find the tweet from the Canes that Rod Brindamore has the best record after 500 games of any coach. When I saw this stat, and I was like, yeah, let's fire him. Hasn't won the cup. He's a total fucking loser. I don't know why they hang on to him. I am so done with people who want to fire coaches. What have they been 6 years in a row? They can't even get to the cup finals.
I mean,
What a terrible coach.
You got some things to work out here.
Won your conference. I want every coach ever fired.
What's happening?
We should do AI coaches.
Is this about conversations regarding Hubert and Kevin Keys?
Yes. I'm exhausted from it. So fine. I'm done being exhausted by the amnesia of both fan bases. And now I'm just going to embrace it. I think you should actually fire and hire a new coach every week.
Oh, you know what? It finally makes sense. I totally forgot. I totally forgot you were doing dry January. For God's sake, have a fucking beer. Please.
No, I got one more week.
Come on, Joe.
Nope.
Look at it, man. It's right here.
Nope.
It's cold. It's cold. It's fresh. I just opened it.
I actually had a dream,
dude. It's so
about
cold.
drinking a beer.
It's just a shorty. They don't count.
They
Joe.
don't count.
They don't count.
I'm good.
You sure?
You're quite the enabler sometimes.
Yeah. Although you were down bad in January.
We'll see what happens this year.
Please don't do it again, because you were a grumpy motherfucker in January of this year. Please don't do that. Now, speaking of the Carolina Hurricanes, speaking of exhausting, you know what was exhausting? Mikko Rantanen. Because that's where we go to next as we do our year in review, January, February, all the speculation of making a big trade, the big swing, right? They go out and do it. This was this big indication that, all right, the window is open. Let's make this move. This guy is a top target. They moved heaven and earth to get him. They did it. And we're having fantasies of super lines, Joe.
If he doesn't put the fucking super line together, I don't know what we're doing.
I need to clarify this. The super line to your mind is
What?
Jarvis Aho Rantanen.
Yes.
That is an incredible commentary on Andrei Svechnikov, and one of the reasons why the Hurricanes made this deal.
I think we're all in agreement, though. As long as Sebastian Aho's not the best player on the team, then the Hurricanes, you have a chance to win the cup if Sebastian Aho is the second best player.
I'm going to pick up where you guys were left off a little while ago. If Sebastian Aho is your Scottie Pippen, you got a chance to do something.
Yeah.
Because that puts you in a position where you can do some things. Svechnikov can be your Rodman or whatever. Like even Hall's arrival takes some of the pressure off guys like Robinson and Roslovic. It lets people slot into positions where they can be more successful.
Man, remember those days? Remember that fantasy booking?
Man, what a big trade that was. So big that one of the questions at the presser for Eric Tulsky was, you got any other moves? Or is this it? Or
I forgot about that. Because I remember we talked to Tulsky. We talked to Tulsky shortly after that. And we joke with him. I'm like, so apparently you got some other stuff. He goes like, we just pulled off one of the greatest deals of all time. What are you talking about? Except that it wasn't one of the greatest deals of all time.
it was one of the biggest in franchise history. I understood why they made the move.
Yes.
Obviously, they made it without doing all of their homework, which turned out to be they had to make another move in return.
Yes.
But going back to that mindset of the end of January last year, I think we've made this point a lot of times. We follow the Hurricanes.
Yes.
Most people in this market follow the Hurricanes and really aren't aware, up beyond the Connor McDavid or a Kachuk brother at this point. Most of us just kind of follow the Canes, know the Canes, and know who the playoff villains are.
Yeah.
We don't realize Mikko Rantanen and the Colorado Avalanche won the Cup 2 years ago with, just a lineup that the Hurricanes dream about, because they have a good defense. They had balanced lines, but they also had tippy top talent at the top of those lines.
Yes.
And you're seeing that right now with McKinnon leading the NHL in scoring with our guy who they got in return, Marty Dachis.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't quite know as a whole what Rantanen was, but we knew it was a signal that they were making a swing to try to win the Stanley Cup.
So that part about the swing is the key part of this. You fast forward to March where things had deteriorated, and then they eventually traded him to the Dallas Stars. And Mikko Rantanen eventually signs an 8-year, $96 million contract. In that Amazon series that featured Seth Jarvis, that episode kind of pivoted to a real-time reaction of the Mikko Rantanen saga unfolding. Okay.
And he was on the golf course with Jesperi Kotkaniemi.
Yeah, he was with KK on that one. So in return for Rantanen in that March deal, the Hurricanes received Logan Stankoven, who everybody loves right now, along with a conditional first-round pick in the 2026 draft, a conditional first-round pick in the 2028 NHL draft, a third-round pick in the 2026 draft, a third-round pick in the 2027 draft. When you do it in its totality, the Canes ended up actually working out pretty well. It was a messy way to get there, but you end up with Hall, you end up with Stankoven, who everybody loves. They signed Stankoven to a long-term deal, and the Canes eventually get to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So they gave up Natchez and Drury and get in return a bunch of good, quality asset picks and Stankoven, a young forward who they're trying at center this year. We'll see how long that experiment lasts.
Now, the Canes are getting roasted in the trade, with the double trade.
Yeah, nationally, and the people who follow hockey, in national podcasts, Spittin' Chicklets, everything else, like, Mikko's fiance/girlfriend couldn't find him somewhere to shop.
There was no Neiman Marcus here, so
Raleigh is such a terrible market.
Canes are boring.
The Canes are boring. Rod's style doesn't lend itself for him to score. He didn't score while he was there. Never mind, he wasn't trying while he was here.
There was that too. So at that point, I was getting fed up. Much like your dry January rant, I was getting a little fed up in the Spittin' Chicklets of the world, and fans too, who are like, "Why do you even do this? You disrupted everything." There was that like buyer's remorse with the Natchez thing, as though Natchez doesn't have his. We could do our own cycle of Natchez if you really think about it.
Yes, we could.
Okay, so let's go back into the post Rantanen trade reaction.
I want to give the Carolina Hurricanes under Tom Dundon and Eric Tulsky as the general manager a lot of credit. Okay, a lot of credit, because we can go back 10 years and talk about how it used to be with the Carolina Hurricanes. The Canes have swung twice in 2 years. We've been banging the table for the Carolina Hurricanes to do stuff like this. If you're a cap team and you insist that your window is a lot more open that me or Joe would write about or talk about, well, you make moves like this. So I'm not going to fault them. You swung, it didn't work out.
Bonnie Raitt, I can't make you love me.
Right.
Just like I can't make you love me, I can't make you want to win the Stanley Cup with me either.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of understand the mindset of, well, if you don't want to be here, there's nothing I can do to help you stay. And I don't think your heart's in it. Like, I don't think you want to be here. So you can't roll the dice, I guess, at that point. Because I don't think salvaging like anything from Dallas is that important to me.
Yeah.
Cap space is the value, not whatever you could get from Dallas. But if he's being obdurate and saying to the Canes, I'm not going to be here, just get rid of me. If he's saying that, flat out saying that, then you trade him.
You're wearing the same hoodie.
That was some Inception bullshit right there.
That was Inception right there. All right, and then as the week progressed, and I'm catching all these social media clips from the Spittin' Chicklets of the world, and I think one of the takes that finally got me was the Carolina Hurricanes should fold as a franchise because they couldn't secure Mikko Rantanen.
Yeah, remember this came on the heels of the previous year. They traded for Jake Gensel with the Penguins, and then. However, the negotiation ended up working out. The only way they were the same is they made trades to get a player in the final year of their contract, star players in the final year of their contract, and could not re-sign either of them.
I've saw Spittin' Chicklets. I saw empty netters. They're just banging on the Canes. I think one of them said the Canes need to fold as a franchise if you have to move on from Mikko Rantanen. I'm thinking to myself, buddy, there are a lot more franchises in the NHL who have made a lot of boneheaded mistakes that should probably fold before the Carolina Hurricanes, okay?
The rhetoric at the time, it was not, we like Mikko Rantanen, we want to get him in here and see if we can get him signed. It was, this is the guy we want to build our franchise around for the next 8 years. We're going to give him what he wants to sign him so we can all move forward. Whether there was an intermediary who misread the situation or whether the Hurricanes misread the situation.
Yeah.
Something went haywire there, and pretty quickly, because I assume this was from the Rantanen camp. The what do they do if they have to flip him stuff started coming out, and to me, pretty quickly.
If this was such a bad fit, well, then why try to make it a thing? Move on and get what you can.
That's what we were talking about the other day when it looked like this is breaking down. And you're like, but they're going to lose the Rome, and I was like, are they? Would it surprise me in the slightest if the Hurricanes won 7 of 8? 10 of 12, 11 of 14 going forward, 0%. This is a team that's going to say, you didn't want to be here? All right, let's go show you what you're missing. You don't want to be, maybe we'll see you in June.
And Luke DeCock ended up being right because they did exactly that. Yeah. And of course, big shouts to Ryan, who we did the Rantanen jersey trade. And of course, as we fast forward, Joe, January 6th is right around the corner.
A reckoning.
I got to
It's
buy
almost here.
I got to buy tickets for that game.
Yeah.
I'm in town for that. I got to buy tickets for that game. So what exactly happened? We talked to Rod Brindamore that summer when the season came to an end. And we just...
Well, there was a lot of like...
He said...
Game of telephone happening there. But the one thing that always stuck with me, going back to that conversation the day of the trade, we talked to Tulsky. And I said, hey, did you ask Aho about this? And he was like, no. Rantanen's Finnish, presumably friends with Aho. They've played together in years prior in international competitions, all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And when he said no, we didn't talk to him, I was like, that's kind of something I think I would have done in terms of background.
Yeah,
and
like, what's this dude's
hey,
deal?
do you want to come here? If they make a move for you, will you come? And I get it, you can't let players run the franchise.
No.
But in this particular instance, it would have served them well.
Do a little background on that.
To do a little homework.
So here's Brindamore when it's all said and done in June after they had gotten bounced from the playoffs and revisiting the Rantanen deal.
Obviously, we know you a little bit. You're ultra competitive. You have a conversation with Mikko Rantanen, and he says, I don't want to be here.
Okay,
You weren't on my list. Okay,
he didn't actually ever say that to me. I just knew what he was thinking. He never actually told me.
He did not verbalize to you.
No, but this goes back to there's a bigger backstory. But the point of the whole thing is Mikko did us a favor. He got here. It wasn't that he didn't like us. And he's like, I'm a free agent in a month. I'm not. I have to sign now. And whoa, I just need time. We can't give you time because if we goes to free agency and we lose you for nothing, that's really not good. Everything just got poured onto him. And he needed to take a break, and I get it. Had he had another year on his deal, and we weren't talking about this, I bet you this would have been a non-factor. He made a decision, and he actually helped us by at least saying, I know I want to go there. There's 3 teams I might go to. Try that. Essentially what happened. So now we give management credit. They pivot, and we pull off a deal that at least we get a player that we kind of knew we thought we might like. Turns out we really like him. So that I think salvaged that whole thing.
So that was Brindamore, and the person he's talking about is Logan Stanko, who had a great run there, including the postseason. So I thought that, and of course the game of telephone you're referencing is that he had done a pregame interview with Adam Gold on the radio broadcast, and he just straight up said, paraphrasing here, but I had a conversation with Mikko. And of course, that got out there, and people had lost their minds and everything else. But the Mikko saga, man, that occupied our time for a good 2 months. And then, of course, it was there in the postseason, and of course, we'll get to it on January 6th.
He had a spectacular postseason for the Stars
until he didn't. Just saying. I'm just saying. He had a great postseason.
Pretty sure the Canes would have taken all those goals, Joe.
Until he didn't. Until he didn't. All right, let's go back to February. Joe's finally drinking beer, but the Kevin Keats discourse has not stopped. It is relentless. And one fateful day in the middle of February, we get this call from a 704 regarding Kevin Keats and the state of things.
Hi, Joe and Joe. So first of all, I did my undergrad at NC State, so I'm an NCSU alumnus. I currently live in the Philadelphia area, so your podcast is my connection with the local sports scene, and I really appreciate that. But while I appreciate your show, I've been really disappointed with the discourse surrounding Kevin Keats. I find that Joe uses straw man arguments like, well, if he isn't winning a championship, we must fire him. And really, I find these statements to be disingenuous. Over 8 years, Kevin Keats has extracted generational wealth while plunging the program into the depths of irrelevancy. And like all NC State fans, I will be forever grateful for the Final Four run. But let's be honest, this is a substantial outlier when you consider his body of work. NCSU is a storied program. They deserve a standard greater than missing the ACC tournament. It's time for Keats to step down.
Forever grateful, Joe. Forever grateful. We also, I forgot about this one. We had a call to the sports phone asking if 2024's ACC tournament run and Final Four run was worth it.
Is all this worth it because Kevin Keats was able to win the ACC tournament and go on a Final Four run? I don't know. It might be. I'm personally glad that we did, but at the same time, it's like, well, you get Kevin Keats for an extended number of years. So I'm conflicted.
You absolutely take it. Of course, I continue to say, no, you absolutely take it. But things did not go well, and NC State went from going from a Tuesday in the ACC tournament to winning the whole thing in a Final Four run to missing the ACC tournament altogether. And we went into our radio bits, binder of bits, and we concocted Destination Charlotte. Because remember, there were still multiple paths for NC State to still make the ACC tournament instead of missing it because of the additions of Cal, Stanford, and SMU and how the new format of the ACC tournament exists. And I went back and I found these two because, man, it really required a lot of math.
As bad as last night looked for the Wolfpack. Destination Charlotte 2025 is somehow not dead.
There are still 7 ways for NC State to make it. First one would be by going 3-0. And then if Florida State were to finish 0-3, they'd have the tiebreak over the Seminoles. If Notre Dame were to go 1-2, they would have the tiebreak over Notre Dame. Syracuse could lose out and be 6-14. NC State could win out and be a game ahead of the Orange. If Cal were to go 1-2, they'd be 1 game clear of a team who has the tiebreak over them. Now you're sitting here going, Joe, they haven't won a road game all year. Why do you think they're magically going to win 2?
Yeah.
Excellent point. So let's say they lose on Saturday and then win their final 2 games. Then they're 2-1. There's still 2 ways that they can get there. And you go, well, Giglio, why can't both Notre Dame and Cal go 0-3? This is where I point out that Notre Dame and Cal finished the season with each other. Of the most likeliest things to happen, Notre Dame going 0-3 and State going 2-1 would be the cleanest path to the ACC tournament.
Spoiler. No, it gets better. It gets better. It gets better. We had one other Destination Charlotte breakdown. It came down to one thing and one thing only. Are we finally in the end game? Has Dr. Strange seen the millions of permutations and possibilities? The time stone has returned and said, what, Joe?
Here we are. Destination Charlotte has been reduced from 7 paths to a single fork in the road. NC State at 4-14 needs to win out by beating Pitt on Wednesday at the crypt that will be the Lenovo Center. And then Saturday, they need to go to Miami in what could be one of the funniest one-off games in the history of ACC basketball. Notre Dame needs to lose both games. Here's the rub. Both of Notre Dame's games are at home. They get Stanford at home on Wednesday. And then Saturday is going to be a true coin toss of all coin tosses when Cal heads to the Joyce Center. Could be looking at a play-in of sorts if the Wolfpack can win on Wednesday. And before you say it, yes, Wednesday is absolutely a law of the Wolf game.
So how'd that play out, Joe? How'd that play out?
Spoiler. NC State went 1-2 in those games. Notre Dame went 2-0 to finish the year. And in epic fashion, by the way. They beat Stanford by 2, and then they beat Cal in that game 112 to 110 in quadruple overtime.
Now, we don't break out the sirens in the headline often, but when a coach gets fired, that's what will bring out the true emergency podcast. And Joe Giglio breaks the news. I famously opened that emergency podcast by apparently not giving you enough credit.
No, you didn't give me any credit.
I didn't give you any credit? No. I was just getting into it. So you were mad at me about that, which is understandable because you broke the news. You had a hell of a March run yourself. You had a March run. Okay.
I did.
You had a March run that equaled 2024.
That's why certain people listen to this podcast now and play it for the certain other people.
But this was kind of like, we knew where it was going. We knew it was going to happen. So the firing of Kevin Keats, as I'm looking back on these things, as we got to that point, at that point, the money people were done. You break the news. So by the time we get to discussing it, you had pivoted to what this is really about. What this is really about going forward.
This isn't even about Kevin Keats today. We spent the whole year talking about Kevin Keats. It's about Boo Corrigan. Boo Corrigan was hired in 2019. His focus at the time was getting NC State through the NCAA case that was brought on by Mark Gottfried. And he did that. And now he is in year 6 of being here. He has not made a major hire, has not made a major splash. With a new chancellor, a new boss coming in, I think he felt now was the right time to make a bold move that obviously you can only make if you get the money to make the bold move. Now we're going to see what his signature looks like. Because at Army, he had hired a football coach who resuscitated Army football. Okay. And that's how he got this job. So he's been here, hasn't hired a football coach, hasn't hired a men's basketball coach, hasn't hired a women's basketball coach, hasn't hired a baseball coach. He's been itching to fire Elliott this whole time. And Elliott keeps going to Omaha. But now, of course, making the national semifinals is apparently not a requirement to keep your job anymore. So
well, we can get into that.
Boo's always had kind of grand designs of what he wants to do next. Well, how do you get there? You have to have a big moment.
Yeah.
The only way to have a big moment is to hire a football coach, hire a men's basketball coach. So this is about Boo Corrigan as much as it is, even more so than what it is about Kevin Keats.
So I think you laid that out succinctly, which gets us into the coaching search to replace Kevin Keats. And I think to borrow the line from The Wire, from Marlowe, you want it one way, but it's the other way. So before we get into the search itself and how it went from Will Wade's not really on the radar to, oh my goodness, Will Wade's actually going to get the job. Let's shout out Brian over at Nice Price for putting this banger together.
Woke up this morning, tracked myself a flight. Might get our top candidate if the pizza's right. Wade or Gainey, will it be, or somebody new? Here's your chance to make your mark, a coach and search with Boo.
So Joey Giggs gets activated. How did this thing start? I can't remember how it started. Who were like the top names at the time? I mean, you had the wish list of Will Wade, right? But then there was like the Boo Corrigan list, if I remember correctly, the competing things that were happening at that time.
Initially, everyone was very excited about Will Wade. Initially.
Yes.
Okay. I was told very quickly in the search, unless something changes like drastically, he's not even on Boo's list.
Okay.
I said, okay. I can kind of see that. Remember, Boo was hired, like I said, to get you through this NCAA mess, even though NCAA mess doesn't exist anymore and those rules have changed. You know, you still have people there in compliance. You still have people who wrote checks for all of the legal costs that might sit there and say, hey, there might be a better way to do this. Right. So, you know, I know for sure that he had reached out to Justin Gainey, an assistant at Tennessee. We know that he also reached out to Richard Pitino, who had kind of resurrected his career and is now at Xavier, and obviously the pedigree that goes with all that. Ryan Odom would obviously have made a lot of sense if you think about it, right? Boo Corrigan's dad, ACC lifer. Ryan Odom's dad, ACC lifer. They would have the dads would have intersected at Virginia at one point. Okay, so would have made a lot of sense. Any of those guys would have made a lot of sense, to be perfectly honest with you. Thursday of the ACC tournament, I get a phone call and they said, do you know if Boo has reached out to Will Wade? And I was like, no. I'm like, I don't communicate with Boo, so I don't know.
Right.
And that person said to me, well, I had someone reach out to me and say, Will's interested in the job and would take the job. So I think like someone needs to tell Boo, which I believe that he did, because that was at like 11 o'clock at night, 11:30 at night.
Yeah.
The next morning, there was a plane waiting to take Boo Corrigan. I believe they ended up meeting in Dallas. the initial meeting, I believe.
Wait,
was
I
in
thought the
Dallas.
plane was waiting to take him to
St. Louis.
St. Louis. Anyway, sorry, I digress.
There was a meeting in
I
Dallas
digress.
that eventually happened before McNeese had played in the NCAA tournament. They happened to be playing Clemson. So I think it went fairly quickly from there. Like Boo might have had an idea initially about how this could have gone. And Mike White, is another one from Georgia.
Mhm.
That's Kevin White's son.
Mhm.
Legitimately is one of his good friends. So, if you were in a situation where you had to make a really good hire, wouldn't you go talk to one of your really good friends? Georgia, by the way, has one of the best offenses in college basketball this year, for people who haven't followed that part of it, the postscript of it, who keep questioning me like, you just make stuff up. And it's like, no, a lot of it's logic.
Right.
So the money people then started really pushing Will and essentially saying, Brian McMurray in particular, here's the money I'm willing to put up, and here's the coach I want us to go get.
Yeah.
And I think you saw that push. And I think Boo, based on our conversations with Will, which have all been on the record, they met in Dallas. They had a conversation. They talked. Boo liked what he heard. The money people were already on board with kind of the attitude of, let's go get a guy who's got a little bit of bluster, got a little bit of swagger, and obviously has some coaching acumen with success at VCU, McNeese, LSU, Chattanooga.
And give Will Wade a lot of credit too, because while all this is happening, he's not making any sort of, he's not doing the classic coaching search, the focus of a coaching search, putting himself in a box by saying things that will ultimately blow up in his face. He was very matter of fact about that. And that's been a through line for Will Wade since he got here. So you broke that news.
Yeah, thanks to our friends, I was able to break that at a time. It was interesting. It works both ways, right? Like, we're not tethered to anything. We don't answer to anybody.
Yeah.
So you always know when you're right, when literally minutes later, Matt Norlander, literally minutes later,
Jeff Goodman's and Rob Dosters
Jeff
and all
Rob,
that, yeah.
and they're all tethered to an association of, hey, we know what's going to happen, but don't break it until the tournament's over. I was obviously in a position where I don't have to answer to anybody. I'm not paid by NC State. I don't work for NC State.
No.
So, and I don't work for McNeese. I know McNeese's AD. I mean, he returned most of my texts and stuff like that, but he wasn't helping me in any way, shape, or form.
Sure.
I know certain agents, including Will's former agent. I don't know his current agent. So literally minutes after I had broken the news, other outlets were like, oh yeah, this is happening. And I'm like, okay. But they were waiting.
They were waiting for
because they didn't want to step on McNeese.
Yeah.
But when we talked to Will, he said it actually helped us because I told the guys, hey, you're going somewhere else next year. I'm going somewhere else next year.
It's a totally different game now,
McNeese
man.
has never won an NCAA tournament game. Why don't we, while we're together, win an NCAA tournament game? Which they did. And so, I just much like you like to get that game ball from 2011 when NC State shut out Carolina, where your interview with
Everett
Withers. I would like a game ball for McNeese's win over Clemson, their first ever NCAA tournament.
Galvanized them.
I'm literally just saying what Will said.
You're right. No, it galvanized him. It galvanized him. So we fast forward to the introductory press conference with Will Wade. We've gone over the Red Reckoning, and it's interesting as this week has unfolded. NC State's coming off this close overtime loss to Kansas. They haven't won any of those name games. That was why you hire Will Wade. And it's been interesting to see the pivot now. I'm not saying that Will Wade and Bill Belichick are the same thing. They are not. Okay, so please.
There's some similarities in terms of how it came about and how it started. But
sure. But I want to be abundantly clear. Do not misunderstand what I'm saying. They are not the same thing. Okay. However,
no, Will Wade's in his prime and engaged and understands college sports. Bill Belichick does not.
Some of the pivoting that I've seen from some State fans in my mentions, in my email, on the YouTube comments or social media comments, Instagram, TikTok, the pivot from where that introductory press conference was to where we are today has been interesting. He's like, well, what do you expect? It's only been X amount of games. He just slapped this roster together. I'm like, that's not how it works in college basketball. And if you go back to that introductory press conference, this was not a build. This was not, we'll appreciate the struggle. I mean, NC State fans, you've been appreciating the struggle since how long? For 40 fucking years. Okay. So like Will Wade doesn't need to tell you, y'all will appreciate the struggle. No, dude, you were hired so we didn't have to appreciate the struggle anymore.
So we can avoid the struggle.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're supposed to go out there and win these name games like Carolina has done this year, like Duke has done this year. And it got back to the central question from that introductory press conference of how quickly can this thing get turned around and can he make big strides in year one?
I have not seen a coach introduced and at the same time throwing equal amounts of red meat and Viagra to an audience ever.
Mm-hmm.
Like you talk about singing from the same sheet. I mean, he was playing the hits and playing them early.
Fans, the administration, and the program were all on one accord. And everybody's on the same accord. Everybody's singing from the same sheet of music. And when that happens, at NC State, it's going to be a reckoning for the ACC. It's going to be a reckoning for college basketball, and it's coming.
Had to go through the list. Les Robinson, Herb Sendek, Sidney Lowe, Mark Godfrey, Kevin Keats, basketball. Michael Caine, Chuck Amato, Tom O'Brien, Dave Doeren, football. 9 coaches. Never saw a press conference like that from any of them.
Yeah.
The Got Man would have come the closest.
Also, that press conference was mostly known for Debbie Yao.
Sabotage.
Right.
Now, you say Kevin Keats killed NC State shit.
He did.
How's this for a challenge? Can Will Wade kill the law of the wolf? Because when you expect the most, you get the least. And man, has he set the bar high.
So has he changed law of the wolf, Joe? Early results would indicate no, he has not. But
the law is undefeated, sir.
We shall see how the rest of the season goes. Oh, I will say this, though, about Will Wade in that introductory press conference, going back to it, because I had forgotten about the singing from the same sheet and being in alignment. Again, the buzzword of 2025 is alignment. And that was one of the reasons why Kevin Keats ultimately had to be fired, too. Not everybody was in alignment. The money people weren't in alignment with Kevin Keats. Kevin Keats had a different viewpoint on how NC State basketball should be. And, of course, to your points about what Boo Corrigan wants to do as an AD. Nobody was on the same page. Will Wade, to his credit, put everybody on the same page. And I still think, as of today, yeah, they're still on the same page. There's still a lot of basketball season left. But it's interesting to go back and revisit that press conference at this time of the year because quick turnaround was promised. Reckoning was promised, not just for the ACC, but for the entirety of college basketball. And as you said, NC State shit is dead. Thanks to Kevin Keats, now it's Will Wade's job to kill Law of the Wolf. And so far, there were a lot of expectations going into this season, a lot of expectations set up by Darian Williams and what he was going to be as a preseason player of the year. And we've already pivoted off of that at NC State.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how the rest of the year goes. Something tells me March 2026 will feature prominently in the year in review 2026. Don't you think?
Absolutely.
Now, speaking of March, you know who the real main character of March was?
Our friend Cooper Flagg.
Incorrect. I'll tell you next. I don't think Cooper Flagg was the main character of March. The main character of March was North Carolina and Hubert Davis. Let's go back to January.
Both things can be true.
Maybe. I'm going to make my argument, though.
Yep.
So you go back to January, and North Carolina had already gone through their non-conference slate and come up short in their big marquee games. Losses to Kansas was at 92-89, an OT loss to Michigan State. Lost to Auburn, a loss to Alabama at home, which was not pretty. Okay. Florida, Louisville to begin the year. But there's this stretch of basketball that seemed like, hey, you know what? You missed out on all these key marquee opportunities, but you can always get something done in the ACC. And for the most part, that's how they started with wins over Notre Dame, SMU, NC State, and Cal. But then we went through a stretch where they lose to Stanford, Wake Forest, Pitt, Duke, and Clemson with wins over Boston College and Pitt in there. Okay. And that's when we really started getting into the existential crisis of Hubert Davis and where is this going with North Carolina basketball. We had talked to Andrew Jones, Tar Heel 24/7, about just wondering, what is Carolina basketball? They're a small team, no real identity, no real bus driver. And it was scary hours for Hubert.
What is Hubert Davis Tar Heel basketball right now in year 4?
I don't really know what the North Carolina basketball identity is either, to be honest with you, because it looks like it's still very much a work in progress, sort of a tug of war of trying to be something that has shown sparks of, but it's not consistent. And when you get into crunch time situations, the Carolina that I grew up watching and have covered for a long time, and that you guys have been around for a long time, 90% of the time when they get in a nip and tuck game with 4 minutes left, they're the ones that put foot on throat and win.
Yeah.
And this team doesn't know how to do that. And they look around after each loss and they have the same response as, well, we didn't do the little things. Consistently, the other team's energy goes up the last 4 minutes in a dire situation, and Carolina doesn't match it. But I think it's a work in progress for Hubert. He's still trying to figure out who he is as a coach. He's trying to figure out who his players are and how they respond to his approach.
So that was us talking to Andrew Jones in January. That was, again, followed up with a couple of those losses. And we started asking the question, can this ship get turned around?
We want to assign blame, right? That's what we do. When things go wrong, we try to find out, well, what went wrong with this UNC team? Kate Tyson, I think people are forgetting, North Carolina guy, his brother played at Clemson, 13 points as a freshman at Belmont, 16 points as a sophomore at Belmont. So the thing I'm advocating, Jalen Withers is also from Charlotte, the reserve big man who began his career at Louisville. So the thing I'm advocating for Carolina to do, they're actually already doing.
Okay.
Sometimes you just miss. The truth is, you can't miss the tournament, period. So that's bad for his long-term health. And I'm watching that game last night thinking to myself, well, how does he fix his long-term health? And I'm sitting there thinking, well, there you go. There's the answer. Just go get a couple local kids.
Well, I mean,
he's already done that.
It's what happens on Saturday doesn't matter to me, by the way. Hear me out on this. Saturday's easy. And obviously Hubert can go in there and say, hey, man, you messed them up last year.
Yeah.
You can go back to 2022. You messed them up then. I mean, there's all that history there. Last night was hard. And that's the problem with Carolina so far this season. The hard things they're not fighting through. They're not stepping up to meet the hard challenge. They could win Saturday. I've seen stranger things, man. But I think we're at the point where with some Tar Heel fans where even if they win Saturday, they're like, yeah, man, I've seen this before. Now do it against the team you're not supposed to do it against.
So what we're referencing there is a, sleepy Tuesday night loss to Pitt. Mm-hmm. And their next game was the first matchup against Duke at Cameron Indoor Stadium. And why I was saying Saturday's easy. That's an easy game to get up for. You've seen stranger things. Of course, they go out there and they get their ass handed to them 87-70. But a funny thing happened after that. They start reeling off wins against the chumps in the ACC. They lose to Clemson in that stretch. And it all sets up for the rematch against Duke before going to the ACC tournament. They lose that game 82-69. And you're thinking, all right, you have no wins of note. So how in the hell are you going to get in the NCAA tournament? So we're talking to Patrick Stevens like every other day. The bracketologists are telling you that, North Carolina's not getting in. If they do get it, it's because of their name, all that kind of fun stuff. They go to the ACC tournament. They get wins over Notre Dame and Wake Forest, which, again, doesn't necessarily do anything for you. And they get Duke again at the ACC tournament, and they lose it on a lane violation. A lane violation. They get in the NCAA tournament. And Joe, I was hyped. The content gods deliver once again with North Carolina. The big debate about their bubble status. Are they in? Are they out? They are in. And people are mad.
If you look at the teams on the bubble, Carolina, West Virginia, Indiana, Ohio State, Boise, they're all within 10 of each other in WAB. Mm-hmm. They're basically a statistical stalemate. Here's where Carolina differentiated itself. The NCAA selection committee will always give you credit for the games that you control, even if you don't win them. Carolina was 4th in the country in non-conference strength of schedule. That's a differentiator, especially when you look at those other teams on the bubble. Next, it was the combination of winning the first 2 games in Charlotte, West Virginia, 0-1 in barbecue in the Big 12. Indiana, 0-1 in barbecue in the Big 10. Ohio State, 0-1 in barbecue in the Big 10.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't win a game in your conference tournament, I honestly do not give two shits what the Wob, Bart Torvik, Ken Palm, whatever number you want to say. We can talk about politics all you want. When you don't win your first game in your conference tournament, it has been proven time and time again. If you are in the bubble, you're going to get left out.
So we then go to the national.
Some kind of march, man. I was on one.
Yeah, you definitely were on one. I mean, we're on one every day.
I don't know about that, but.
Well, it's dry January, as we learned. You're not on one. Bad idea. Don't do a dry January, as we've come to find out as we look back on 2025. So the pundits were pissed off. The pundits were pissed off they got into the NCAA tournament. And we had some fun with that.
I feel like the national media needs to get a grip.
It's a nice spectrum, though. I kind of like that. We got a little Stephen A. We got a little Shay Shay. We got Clay Travis. We got Dan Dockich. We got the governor of West Virginia out here breaking down quads.
This was a miscarriage of justice and robbery at the highest level.
Look like you're a Q4 team when it comes to critical state indicators. Like, I'm guessing that sign probably cost taxpayer dollars. John Fanta going on Fox saying it was a crime.
Is a crime. They had 2 wins over the field, one of which came over American.
How in the world could North Carolina get in that large bid? North Carolina not deserving to be in?
I've been doing this a very long time, and no team that I've ever dealt with has so conclusively proven that they're not an NCAA tournament team.
We have spent the better part of 5 years complaining about the arbitrary nature of quad ones. Now quad ones are being used as the gospel truth to get you in and leave Carolina out. So we spent 5 years complaining. We need more data. You now have more data, which gives you a much better informed decision process. It spits out a team that actually is favored in those data points that people have been complaining about. Like, well, you need these. And then when it comes back and it gives you the team you don't want in because the old metrics would have favored your team, you see where we have a problem?
So again, they go and they win their game in Dayton. They beat San Diego State, and then they lose.
No. They didn't beat San Diego State.
Oh, they crushed them.
No.
They crushed them. What was it?
Fucking murder ball.
Was it 95-68?
I mean, that was
yeah.
For that one shining moment, Carolina was Carolina again.
That's
man.
all that mattered. And it was funny because I was going through the social media clips. And I did a ball don't lie because everybody was like, this is that. And they'd go out and crush him. And it was like, okay. But it wasn't meant to be, obviously. They go on and they lose to Mississippi. We're hanging out at Longleaf Swine. And now that tumultuous season was over, it does kind of set up an interesting reboot for North Carolina.
If I look at Carolina and I look at Hubert Davis, like you're sitting here saying, well, they fell behind by 20 and that makes him a bad coach. I would then turn around and argue with you. The Clemson and the Duke losses this year were the only 2 times his team didn't fight back for him. Then I would also say to you, in his first year, they played for the national title. And last year they were a number 1 seed. So again, you can use the 2 years that you feel like weren't great as your argument. I could use the 2 years that were great for my argument.
Mm-hmm.
You just want it your way. And I get it. I'm not putting down your opinion of Hubert. I'm just saying you can see it both ways, right?
Carolina fans not quite understanding how Carolina was not adapting to the current state of college basketball. And you have to allow for Hubert Davis and the infrastructure to get with the program before you can truly do an assessment on Carolina and Hubert Davis. And if you want to make that assessment starting next year or starting now into next year with the roster and how they do, that's fair. But as we're kind of finding out now, there was a lot of soul searching and identity seeking for Carolina the last couple of years under Hubert Davis that has finally come to roost. We'll see if it goes in the right direction.
All right. So what I was referencing there after they got knocked out was Hubert Davis going on his radio show and talking about general managers and the old way of doing things you can no longer do.
January, by the way.
What was?
When he did that.
Right.
Yeah.
I had to go back, and here is the clip about that sequence, that sets up the spring and the summer, because I want to go back to something that was written by Greg Barnes at Inside Carolina that to me kind of informed me of where things were for Hubert Davis this offseason and why this was a crucial offseason and really a crucial year for Hubert Davis.
And yesterday on Hubert Davis's radio show, quote, the old model for Carolina basketball in terms of staff size is not sustainable. And clearly he understands he's on the hot seat. Otherwise, he does not talk like this at his radio show. We're going to hire a GM, which for those who are not paying attention will go, okay, finally. All right, good idea. They're finally doing this with basketball the way they did it with football, who hired, their GM and all that kind of stuff, or what Duke's doing from the jump with John Shire. The most cynical way of looking at it is, why did it take you this long to understand where we are with college basketball? This is not a new phenomenon. This did not catch anybody by surprise. This is being caught flat-footed. Now, you could say, hey, Ovies, at least he gets it now. I agree. Sometimes everybody has to run their own race.
Courtney Bankhart has a GM on the women's basketball staff, and she has a video coordinator, and she has 2 people with creative content and services in their job title.
Yeah.
So to me, if women's basketball has already had these things and had them last year as well, this is not a new thing, right? This is Hubert's choice to not have these things. It's not like he asked for them and Bubba said no.
Yeah.
To me, that's my read on it. I mean, if women's basketball already has these things and you don't, and you're not keeping up with the times, what are we doing here?
So that was Mitch Northrum from the Women's College Basketball Podcast on our YouTube channel. That was the other voice that you heard talking about the differences between UNC Women's, which was already modernized, and Hubert's men's program that had not been modernized. And I referenced that Greg Barnes article, and I thought it was interesting because essentially it was this setting the table for the offseason. You got your GM and Jim Tanner. I remember talking to Matt Norlander, who we got to catch up with here soon, from CBS Sports, and him having to go to boosters to secure the money for NIL, which I thought he kind of glossed over that. We're talking about UNC basketball. You shouldn't have to, as the head coach of UNC basketball, ask people for money. They should be going to you saying, hey man, here's what you need all the time. So it was fraught with Hubert Davis. But a funny thing happens. Looks like they have modernized to the best in a quick turnaround. They've modernized. They spent a lot of money on this roster. And of course, Hubert, it was in a no-win position because people were complaining about the amount of money they were spending on this roster. Well, look at their result. This was a thing. You're making a face, but this was a thing.
No, I know that. I'm saying
Jeff Goodman, Rob Doster, all them. I was listening to the Field of 68 offseason stuff during that summer, and they were kind of going I don't know about this roster and the money. And it's like, dude, there's market forces, going rates, however you want to say it. And by the way, for all the people who are wringing their hands over a roster for UNC, go look at how things have gone this year and go look at Kentucky. And guess what the talking point is for Kentucky this year under Mark Pope? You spent $22 million on this roster? I mean, right now, UNC's looking like a bargain, right? So I find all these things kind of funny. And of course, this fast forwards us to October, Joe, where really you want to know you want to know the real turnaround for UNC this season?
Yeah.
The real turnaround isn't getting a general manager. The real turnaround isn't, investing in NIL and spending the money on the roster and things like that. Really, it was you. It was you at ACC Tip-Off.
Coach, I got a crazy idea.
Okay.
Your coach won 2 national championships.
Yeah.
Your former boss, Roy Williams, won 3 of them.
Yeah.
I think if Carolina were to use 2 bigs at the same time, that maybe it just might work with Henry and Caleb. I don't know, Coach. Right?
I have not used that at practice, but tomorrow I will use that lineup and see if it works. I like that lineup.
Yeah. It's like, wait a second.
It works.
What does this look like? Well, this looks like the Tar Heels
Yes.
to me. A traditional what you guys have done.
We do have size, but I would take it a step further. I think we also have positional size. Our guards are big.
Okay.
Our, Jonathan Powell, 6'6", Luka, 6'6", Seth is a big guard, so we've got positional size as well. And so it allows us the versatility to do a number of different things on both ends of the floor. You talked about rebounding. That's always been a staple of Carolina basketball. Got this from Coach Smith and Coach Guthridge and Coach Williams. It's the number one determining factor for outcome of a game. Yeah. Not just defensive rebounding, but getting to the offensive glass and we weren't good offensive glass last year, and so this puts us in a position to get back to what we've been good at over the years.
That reaction's so priceless.
I know.
You know, it's 4 years and 5 years now for him, and it's you wonder, like, this is a guy who used to work at ESPN, and you don't get that personality, and then to see his reaction that way, that was really good. Now, I thought you were going to say the real turning point, which was the TCU football game when the podcaster found Caleb Wilson tailgating, and he said, "I'm coming for Wake,
belt ass,
coming for State,
Duke,
Duke, sure, but
belt ass."
And I was like, all right,
let's go.
This
man.
guy gets it,
Well,
man.
it's funny too, because I'm glad you brought up Caleb Wilson. It's finding right fit. That's what matters with these rosters. It's a very delicate balance. The money's the money, and you have to go in and find the right thing and the right personalities and everything else, roster construction and all that. So it's been a running theme of this season so far. It just came back to me. Remember, the guy at BYU was another dude that people were apoplectic about, that he didn't go to Carolina. And there's also a game in which you want to play that Carolina was up until a point willing to play and said, nah, man, we're good.
Yeah, Caleb Wilson's only there because AJ DeBansa had some outrageous demands in order to be his 1 year in college basketball. And sometimes, as I like to say, if something good can happen to Carolina, it will.
Mm-hmm.
So AJ DeBansa says no, but Caleb Wilson said yes, and he's been a revelation for them.
Now, I argue that Carolina was the main character for March for a lot of reasons. There was a lot of drama around it.
Yeah, but it was only 2 games that didn't even get technically past the first round.
But it's not, I guess, in terms of how the sports media world reacted to their inclusion, the conversation around Hubert Davis and what this offseason was going to be, the transfers, right? Like, oh my, Elliott Cadeau is at Michigan, Ian Jackson is at St. John's. You know, some of our takes about Ian Jackson are proving to be wrong. And I didn't think that we'd hear from Elliott Cadeau again. And yet Michigan's on an all-time heater right now, right? So these are things we hit and miss all the time. And I know what you're thinking. It's Cooper Flagg, who's the main character of March. And I went back, as I was going through all these old clips, I stumbled upon one of my all-time great Colin Cowherd impressions when we were talking about Cooper Flagg in the summer heading into the NBA draft. I think Cooper Flagg is going to have a very long, successful NBA career. There's too much compete. There's too much polish. He's very good. I had a Colin Cowherd moment while I was in a waiting room getting my son's Honda Civic fixed.
Okay.
Cooper Flagg reminds me a lot of Honda. There's nothing sexy about a Honda. Now, don't get me wrong. I came up in a time where I thought a 1991 CRX was the hottest shit ever. But even the most high-end Honda is still, at the end of the day, a Honda. It's reliable. It gets you where you need to be. You're going to have it for a long time. You're never going to have any complaints about it. But you know what it isn't? It isn't sexy. That's Cooper Flagg. Cooper Flagg is so polished, so good. He's so NBA ready for what the corporate NBA is now.
I don't think he's in a great situation. I know some people look at him, like my son Jackson says to me, Mavericks are stacked. Well, sure, if everyone's healthy.
True.
And everyone plays. And I do think in that situation, they're not going to rely on him to be their best player. Not a great shooter. Doesn't mean he can't get better. Jason Tatum wasn't a great shooter when he left Duke, but he became a better shooter. And he's also 6'7", by the way.
Yeah.
Not whatever Duke listed him at.
Yeah.
So he's a 3, and that's fine. He could be a 3. But if you're a 3 in the NBA, guess what you're going to have to guard? Hyper athletic people. So that's the most athletic position in the league. Good luck. We are playing all of my fucking hits right now. My God.
6'7", Joe? 6'7"?
They are 10-17 on this season. They are out of the playoffs in the West.
Yeah.
They are not competitive.
Yeah.
To the point where they are shopping everyone on their roster, but Cooper Flagg.
But I was right about Cooper Flagg.
And they fired the GM.
Yeah, I know. I was right about Cooper Flagg, though, in the Honda reference, though. The Honda comparison.
No, he's a good player, solid player, just like a Honda.
And I think the thing about Cooper Flagg,
reliable.
Looking back on how things went for Duke, I think we are still operating from the old Mike Krzyzewski playbook and how we talk about Duke. We wanted Cooper Flagg to be some other white Duke player that everybody hates. He never gave you anything to hate, right? He was never that demonstrative of a player. He wasn't a motherfucker, as you like to say, in an outward way.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's not a competitor. I'm just saying in an outward way, he wasn't that guy. But we're trying to treat it like it was, all right? Like, oh, him and Grayson Allen. No, not the same guy. Not the same guy. Not the same guy. And we also were dealing with the idea that, well, he's the greatest freshman ever. The greatest freshman we've seen at Duke. It's like, whoa. We're microwaving this stuff. He had an incredible season. Duke had an incredible season.
Mm-hmm.
They get to the Final Four and they lose in the heartbreaking fashion. And we'll get to the John Shire aspect of this in a second. And while we're going through all this stuff about the stats and all of your, what's his face? So I can't remember now your comparison. Josh McRoberts, the McBob comparisons. I mean, he got further in the NCAA tournament than McBob did, but they came up short. And there's been a lot of Duke 99 references to last year's squad in totality. But again, the main character in this situation was Cooper Flagg. And when you don't come home with the title, it does put in perspective what you might be compared to everybody else.
When we get into these silly sports radio topics of who's the best this, who's the best that, these are the moments ultimately you have to put your signature on.
I'm not trying to grade on a curve. I'm just trying to grade this on the standard that people set. If that's what the standard is, then he has failed to meet that standard. That does not take away from the fact that he had a great season. That does not take away from the fact that he should be the player of the year. He earned all those awards this year. I don't want to first take, I'm really trying not to first take this up. With the game on the line, with how much you have done as the season has gone on, how much you've progressed. He added pieces.
He got better.
Dude, he added so much to his game as the season went on.
He got
right
better.
down to the threes. But you got to make that shot.
Tyler Hansbrough is the most accomplished player in the history of the ACC. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times people would say, therefore, he is the greatest player in the history of the ACC.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Anyone who saw David Thompson would tell you that you can't be. Okay? Even Michael Jordan would tell you can't be because David Thompson was.
Right.
But that doesn't mean you shortchange Tyler Hansbrough for what he was. I think we're going to look back in 10, 20, 25, 30 years at Cooper Flagg and say he had the best statistical freshman season of any player in ACC history. And there's not a single thing wrong with that.
That's kind of where we're at with Cooper Flagg at this point.
Duke went 35-4 last year. He had the ball in his hands in all 4 of those losses in the final possession and delivered 0 for 4. There weren't any other games where they had played close games and he delivered a win for them.
Yeah.
The only other close game they had was against Carolina in the ACC tournament, and he was injured and didn't play in the game.
Yeah.
So, listen, it was what it was. The collapse at the end wasn't all on Cooper Flagg. I mean, a lot of their collapse against Houston was on John, and it's interesting to see how he's already reacted to that, and even acknowledging, yeah, there are times where you have a super team and you don't win it.
Yeah,
84 Carolina, 99 Duke. Some of the Carolina teams with when Kendall Marshall got hurt. There's Duke teams that Zion Williamson and RJ Barrett, like that was a super team.
You could put together a
Jason Tatum and Kennard. That was a really good team.
You could put together a Mount Rushmore of teams that did not win it.
Yeah,
that would probably be teams that did win it if you put them on the court at the same time. If we had the ability to put those teams in their moments against each other. I'm sure you can run simulations if you want to. AI could do it. Maybe I'll run it through Sora. I have no idea. Those teams would beat national championship teams, right? In that regard. And you mentioned Shire and the learning process here, because part of the Duke story and what I was getting at with the playbook of how we talk about Duke, this isn't Mike Krzyzewski losing in an NCAA tournament game. All you're really doing is kind of going, in my opinion, I think people are just kind of going through the motions when it comes to how they talk about Duke, when it's really not the same thing. And I was texting with Luke DeCock when he was at that Michigan State game, and he even said, I think you were in that text thread, where he's like, yeah, man, things are way different, because if this were a Mike Krzyzewski team, it's like the Imperial Star Wars Darth Vader march is playing while he's coming in and everybody's booing him and those types of things. He was like, there's not a lot of buzz for this particular thing other than, hey, man, we're going to have a high-level basketball game. That's what we're going to get. There's no heat to it, which is lacking. So you end up having to come up with new things to talk about. So in the Duke loss, it wasn't about Duke coming up short. It wasn't about John Shire in the moment. It wasn't about Cooper Flagg. You know whose fault it was?
It's the ACC's fault.
It was
preparing.
The ACC's fault.
Here is Jay Billis blaming the ACC for Duke's demise on Saturday.
Duke was inexperienced in close games. And that's where I felt the ACC really let them down.
Well, the 4 losses that Duke had this year were also close losses that came down to the final possession. If you want to bang on Duke for not applying the lessons of close game situations into what happened against Houston down the stretch, I am here for it. But don't blame the league for that. That's no accountability on Duke and John Shire and the players applying said lessons. Also, if you're going to say Houston was all these close games, and that's what they were forged in the fires of, and that's what got them through, can you please explain to me Florida doing to Houston what Houston did to Duke? Right down with the final possession with 19.7 seconds to go. So I guess all those close games didn't pay off in that regard.
If Duke was being in a malaise or in this Gonzaga, if you will, problem,
I've heard that.
You don't hammer teams the way that they did.
Right.
You have off nights.
Right.
Duke didn't have any off nights.
No.
The whole year.
No.
Not one off night.
So, yes, shout out to the ACC for being blamed on that. And we talked to Shire at ACC Tip-Off, and we revisited. I'm sure he's had to revisit it multiple times. And the one thing that we're starting to, I've appreciated about Shire, I think more people are coming around to the appreciation of Shire having a certain zen about him and understanding how to connect with the players today, understanding that some of your big stage losses is the end of the world. You grow from it. And you had set this up at ACC Tip-Off about the Final Four and where to go from there.
Any championship we've won or any Final Four we've been to, one play.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally that fragile. 99, you can say the same thing. 2010 when we won. 2015. You can go down the line.
2010.
22.
What are we talking about, right?
No,
It's a make or miss game.
No,
it's a make or miss game.
It is, and it's a rebounder, not rebound type of game. It's one play. So, again, you have to accept that and embrace that. And also, so you talk about one play defining, how you feel on top of the world versus how I felt that night.
Yeah.
It comes down to one thing.
One of the things you've done amazingly well in your 3 years is you've been you, which is really hard to do when you're following Mike Krzyzewski.
Look, I don't shy away from the fact it's total heartbreak, man. So I've watched that game. I can tell you every single play and everything I think went wrong in that moment. But end of the day, it's heartbreak, and you got to lean into that.
Yeah.
Like if you try to shy away from it or avoid it, you're never going to recover, and that doesn't mean you're ever okay with it. Like I think it's okay to say no. That was heartbreaking. That was a terrible moment in a special season, a special group. But I refuse to let them be defined by 30 seconds, versus 35 wins, championships, everything that group had done.
Really good answer. It's a good interview. But then it was crystallized when they beat Florida in the last possession at Cameron, where he drew up a play. They win the game. And he said, these are things we've been working on.
Yeah.
And we worked on them last year too.
You also have a different player in Cameron Boozer who is making the right basketball plays.
You've got the wolf blood this year. You've got the real motherfucker this year in Cam Boozer. And I'm telling you, man, the 98 Vols vibes coming from Duke this year are strong.
Wait. Are you talking about you're talking about post Peyton Manning, T. Martin national champion Vol vibes?
Peyton Manning, Tennessee won all those games, came up short every time.
Yeah.
Finally, the very first year without him, T. Martin leads them to a national championship.
What did Spurrier always say? Can't spell citrus without UT. Yeah, those were the Peyton Manning years for sure. So, man, I gotta say, man, the first half of the year was jam-packed.
There was a lot to get into.
There was a lot to get into in the first half of the year. From basketball, the firing of Kevin Keats, the hiring of Will Wade, UNC breaking everybody's brains by getting into the NCAA tournament, the reboot, Cooper Flagg, Mikko Rantanen, which of course gets us back to the Canes because it's gonna be May.
Housekeeping.
Of course, Housekeeping is always brought to you by Inovana. Check them out online at inovana.com.
If you have mess inside your mansion or trash in your cabana, get it clean with Inovana.
It's Christmas. By the time you're watching this, it's Christmas. You got wrapping paper everywhere. Kids got toys. You got family coming over. You probably got people coming over for New Year's, things like that. Schedule a cleaning. When all this stuff is over, you're going to need that house cleaned. So contact our friends at Enovana. A little more housekeeping. I put the call to action on our YouTube page in one of their posts, but I'll do it here during housekeeping. Ahead of New Year's, we're going to do a listener's version of the year in review. So call the OG Sports phone. You can curse or don't.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports phone and curse or don't.
So essentially what I'm looking for in the OG listener review is your hottest takes, your favorite moments, some stupidity we did. You want to be the ombudsman of the year. Say, hey, by the way, you got this wrong. It's fine. It's open season. Okay. You steer the ship. All right. So call the OG Sports phone and we'll do that for the New Year's version of the mailbag / YouTube membership thing. We'll do a little bit half and half on that one.
Yeah. My crack notes here include March 26th, the Rick's Cabaret, Forever Grateful,
which we played today.
1031 Dog Shit.
Okay.
428 something about closet.
You're gonna
and 12-8 the hostile takeover. So we got some interesting notes here.
You're gonna need to send me that list so I can go through the Google Voice to track some of this stuff down. I gotta hand it to Google. I know they're all in on AI, but their search stuff still works.
Yes,
especially on the back end of YouTube and on the Google Voice. So I'll give them credit to that. Of course, all the credit in the world to our corporate champions. We're not doing a year in review 2025 without all of the corporate champions who have helped us out past, present, and future. If you're interested in being a corporate champion in 2026, if I can tap into my old Maloney here, Mr. Businessman or businesswoman or business person, by all means, hit us up. The OG goes digital at gmail.com. If you'd be interested in being a corporate champion here in the future in 2026. In the meantime, of course, we always thank our friends at Copiers Plus. We thank our friends at the Butcher's Market who have been with us from the jump. OGs like Hayes at Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority, right? Whitaker and Hamer, who've been helping us out from the jump as well. Hometown Realty, Happy and Hale, our friends at Roback, who I think when we do an audit, if we do the OG audit.
Oh, yeah.
How much money do you think we've spent on Roback this year? Did we break even with the corporate championship sponsorship and the amount of money we've spent?
I think
on
we
Roback?
got more from them, but it's close. It's close.
Of course, use that promo code OG20 to save 20% off your order. And of course, Jared and the crew over at Two Roosters have just been banging out flavor after flavor after flavor, the ice cream cakes, the pies, all that kind of stuff. And speaking of things that we got to do in 2025, we had our own flavor in 2025, Joe. What are you going to do with that cutout, by the way, now that we've replaced it with the cycle of Dave Doeren? What do you want to do with that?
I used it one of the mailbags because the split screen just works better with our ad slides.
Yeah.
So I might probably hang on to it for that.
Hang on to it. Of course, our guy, Matt Davis over at State Farm. Check him out at SureGarner.com. Color Graphic help bring you a brief history of Triangle Good, and they also bring you the cycle of Dave Doeren. If you would like something very similar with Velcro and little red solo cups to say, we are here, hey, Color Graphic can do that for you. All you got to do is hit them up at sales@colorgraphic.com. Our guy, Chris, over at Bloom & Blinds, actually just got a text from our guy, Chris, over at Bloom & Blinds, showing us the finished product for one of our listeners and the job that they just completed. If you'd like to find out how you can save money or how they can buy your blinds, by all means, check them out at bloomandblinds.com. Brassfield Accounting, Chris joined us this year from Homer, Alaska. All that Canes coverage.
And we'll be taking care of you as we go through the Canes push towards that Stanley Cup.
Yes. And of course, go check them out at brassfieldaccounting.com. And of course, Gordon Miller, who's been joining us on the show to tell us some old war stories of the mortgage game.
And check up on the checker upper.
Indeed. Check them out online at millerlending.com. Again, that's millerlending.com. Also, big thanks to Longleaf Swine. They carry OG Light. Speaking of which, OG Light, we had a beer this year, Joe.
Was that this year too?
That was this year too. It was for the birthday bash.
Oh, playoffs. Oh, yeah.
It was for the birthday bash at Shady's where we had a keg of OG Light. So big thanks to Bob Brothers for brewing that for us as well. We'll continue to make OG Light into 2026.
Oh, we got a special.
Do you want to do OG Lime?
We have a special OG Lime in the works.
Okay.
For 2026.
That's something that we will do as well.
Youths.
I don't think are we missing anything?
NC Grill Rescue.
Yes, NC Grill Rescue joined us in 2026. Apologies there. Let me go ahead and just hit the jingle because I do love the Grill Rescue of the week.
No need to bury your barbecue. Call NC Grill Rescue. And now it's time for your NC Grill Rescue of the week.
Who needed a rescue for the year?
Rescue for the year was me, technology wise, but also the week you left me for the mailbag.
Yeah.
And the guy asked me about vibrators and what jingle we would
that was last week.
Concoct for.
That was literally last week.
I needed a rescue on that one. So that was good.
Bluegrass Man, I'm sure, can put out a banger, if you will. So do you have a bet of the year?
I do. I hit an exact result. Dodgers to beat the Blue Jays in the World Series.
Okay.
I won't give you the amount on that, but it was fruitful.
Okay.
Placed it in August when I'm starting to get my years mixed up. My numerology was mixed up.
When my brother came through, I believe he used the promo code OG25 and he was having fun with the parlays and was successful on said parlays. So he had a good visit. He had a good visit to the triangle.
So you could too.
And screwing around with DraftKings. And yes, you can too with the holidays. We've got NFL football. We've got bowl games, college football playoff. We got ACC hoops. We got just about everything. But we know football moves the needle and holiday football is here. So with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, the unexpected can turn game day into payday. And don't forget, DraftKings has your back with early exit. If your player goes down in the first half, you still get paid in cash. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use that promo code OG25. Again, that's code OG25. New customers, you can bet just $5 and you'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly if your bet wins. So head on over to the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use that promo code OG25. If you're a new customer and you bet $5, you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins instantly. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, pass-through of per-wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. How you feeling, Joe? Can you keep going?
I feel good. I need a little pick-me-up from my guy, Eddie Vedder, though, because I think we're about to hit the month where we had our Pearl Jam mania, and he played my song.
He did. He did.
So thank you, Gomez. Thank you, crew. And fucking go Hurricanes.
Damn right. Fucking go Hurricanes. Hurricanes had a really interesting lead up into the playoffs. We already went over the Mikko rant and stuff. We got the saga of Alexander Nikishin being brought to the team in time for the playoffs, which we'll touch on that.
Little midnight run.
And of course, we had the whole, Carolina Hurricanes play boring hockey. Which, by the way, you can go to breakingt.com/OG and find the Keep Carolina Hockey Boring shirt. They got deals going on nonstop right now. Didn't get what you wanted for Christmas? Happens. It's understandable. You didn't get that OG hoodie you were looking for? You know what? Just get it yourself. Go to breakingt.com/OG. And you can get that Carolina Hurricanes Keep Carolina Hockey Boring shirt that is out there. But yeah, It all also ties into like a really interesting year for Tom Dundon too, which we'll get into a little bit later on in this segment because it's funny. There's like been differences between David Tepper and Tom Dundon. There's always a comparison and contrast. And it turns out Tom Dundon has been spending more times in the headlines than David Tepper has. So I found that somewhat interesting. But let's go into the playoffs. They get to the Eastern Conference Finals, and we're having a lot of discussion about Rod Brind'Amour, the year that they had, how they started, and where they ended up in the Eastern Conference Finals. I think we forget what last offseason was like.
I can make the case that actually Rod Brind'Amour in year 7 did his best work this year. I realize it's only getting back to the conference finals. I realize it's looking like they are again going to get swept in the conference finals. But I want you to consider this. When we spoke to him last offseason, he straight up said, we got worse.
Mm-hmm.
He had to get Marty Necas and Jesperi Kotkaniemi to be better players. He was 1 for 2 on that front. Okay. He knew he was losing significant pieces on defense in Pesce and Shea, 2 significant pieces that he had an emotional attachment to. He got the team at a high level to start this season. So that right away was a great coaching job.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, then they make the big home run swing for Rantanen. That's Tom Dundon making that home run swing. And Rod, he was worried about what it meant to lose 2 penalty killers, what it meant to lose 2 centers. So what does he do? He makes an adjustment. So he adjusted not once, but twice this year.
It was 3 times because after the Rantanen thing didn't work, we'll retool again, get what we can, and then make this work.
Going into the season, there was no design on making the conference finals. Going into the playoffs, there was no design on making the Stanley Cup.
No.
So it's like, why do we keep moving the bar? And I honestly do not think Rod is getting a pass for anything. And he'll be the first person to tell you after last night. It was a total out-of-body experience for the Carolina Hurricanes, right from the jump.
Well, we did ask Rod Brind'Amour, actually. So we go back to our exit interview with Rod and that conversation about how this year went and how he feels he did as a coach.
We finally got to year 7. This is the first year of negativity towards you.
And it's our best year probably in 20 years.
What do you think of that or tune that out? Or
it's sports, first of all. Everybody, and it's the age we live in, which is, let's be critical on everything that we can because that's what sells. That's what everybody can talk about. It's fine. I don't have a problem with that. The problem I would have is the narrative of like how it all just flipped all of a sudden that now it's bad. Everything that was fine is now not fine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really kind of weird to me. And what's the context? Like we're mad because we lost to Florida, but look what happened.
That's part of that
like,
game too, though,
I mean?
isn't it? Game 2 was like an out-of-body experience for you guys.
I think that's a one-off.
To your point, it flips. Well, why did it flip? Florida's doing what you're doing.
They took our game. After they beat us in the 2 years ago, when the games were tight, and we know everything was right to the wire.
Yes.
Watch how they played after that.
Sure.
The next 2 years.
Yeah.
They changed their game, and they went, that's how we got to add to our game. And they've done it better. And 90% of the NHL has gone to this game. Okay. We've been doing it for 7 years. Just watch how 90% of the game, and it's all gone that way. Now, why the boring thing is because someone said whoever we're playing gets 18 shots a night, and they're like, "This sucks. We don't like playing that team." And if you look at the actual numbers of who creates the most scoring chances in the league every year, we're right up there.
You know, Rod's locked in when the hat is low, when the brim is low. He's locked in on that particular thing. So the Canes get to the playoffs. They get through the New Jersey Devils 4-1. We get what I thought was a very fun series with the Washington Capitals that brought you Alexander Nikishin, but also some injuries along the way. They power through that, and they win that series 4-1. And, of course, we get to the Eastern Conference Finals, and the discourse begins again. When's the last time they won a game in the Eastern Conference Finals? Rod Brind'Amour and the Hurricanes, the last time they saw the Panthers, people were focusing in on, well, it wasn't really a sweep. Remember, that's what Rod said. These were really, really close games. There wasn't, in my mind, it wasn't really a sweep. Those were things that came back to haunt Rod as they started this series down 3-0, Joe. 3-0.
Yeah, game 2 was just an abomination. I think Rod's misremembering that. 5-0 on their home ice. It was
not great.
Particularly after the way that they played in game 1, the 5-2 loss. The way that Rod Brind'Amour has been successful is the team always has a response. Go back to Rod Brindamore, the player. There was always a response, and there was no response in game 2. So that was genuinely surprising to me. Switched up goalies in that series, moved a couple different things around. They were shorthanded defensively by really the start of that series. So the way that it worked out, the better team won. Florida was the better team.
I go to game 3 where I was going back through how I was labeling things, and I believe that was the one down in Florida. They end up losing that game 6-2. And I believe the headline I used was the Canes were downgraded to a tropical depression because they're down now 3-0 in this series, looking at yet another sweep at the hands of the Florida Panthers. And everybody in the National Hockey world was just piling on the Hurricanes.
The Canes and the Panthers play the exact same game.
Yeah.
And the Panthers are just doing it way better. There is no better team in pro sports today than getting you off of your game than what the Florida Panthers are able to do to you.
It's one thing to lose a series. It's another to look completely outclassed, completely shook, look like a squad that team on the other end of the ice is absolutely in your head. Was it Pedro Martinez, Boston Red Sox pitcher, who famously said after the Yankees got him again, well, just got to tip your cap and call him daddy.
It's an existential crisis that the Carolina Hurricanes are in because you can't keep betting your head up against these guys and other guys. Again, what tonight was about wasn't Kachuk. You're trying to beat the 2023 Panthers.
Yeah.
You got Volquist coming in. You got AJ Greer scoring highlight goals on you. You got to be sitting here going, that's why they're broken.
It's in their head. It started back in game 1.
You win with the best players. Are these the best players? Have you built your team around the wrong guys? It's not exactly building your team around Victor Rask and Jeff Skinner. But I think we have some evidence now against the Rangers and the Panthers that maybe these aren't the guys you're going to win the Stanley Cup with. And if that's the case, you're going into a year when you have a lot of cap room. These guys still have some value. Do you start over with different players? I don't know. But I do know that we have some pretty strong evidence now that this group can't win at this level. So what do you have to do?
So that was Mike Maniscalco, Canes play-by-play, and of course, Luke DeCock, formerly of the News and Observer, who helped us with our playoff coverage. And of course, former Governor Roy Cooper, who hung out with us up in Lenovo Center as the Canes came back down 3-0, staving off, or at least attempting to stave off elimination. Well, they get it done. They win 3-0. I'm sorry, that was on the road. They win in Florida to come back to Lenovo Center down 3-1 to see if they make this a series, right? Started off that way. Canes were up. Vibes were good. And then they had a complete meltdown in that game, and the series was over.
Look, man, you couldn't have asked for a better start. Freddie Anderson gave him a chance in the third period, tied it up. But, man, what are you going to say? Florida's just too good.
We talk a lot about physical toughness with this team. Are they tough enough? Are they big enough? Are they strong enough? I really wonder, the way the first two games went, the way things went at 2-0 tonight, should we be talking more about mental toughness? Because the Panthers played about 10 good minutes in this game. And they scored enough goals to win, and they scored a power play goal when they absolutely needed it. And to me, that's mental toughness. You're not phased. You don't blink. And what did the Hurricanes do tonight? They blinked. Rod Brindamore basically just said it. They're going to have to live with that all summer.
If they weren't mentally tough, we wouldn't have seen what we saw in game 4. I go back to where that was really in question is when the Rangers did what they did in game 6.
Yeah.
And you couldn't stop their power play no matter what, because that's when I start going, this becomes more mental than physical.
And I know that sentiment began to creep into people for the second period of this game. So they did bounce back. They did find a way to get back. Freddie did make key saves.
Jarvis does score to tie.
If anything were to bother me, it's not necessarily blinking in the moment today. It's more along the lines of like, what the hell happened in the first 3 games, man?
So series is over. I will say, looking back at the clips and looking back how we covered those types of things, one thing I didn't air was they were getting booed. Fans were booing the Canes.
Game 2 in particular.
Game 2 in particular. And I believe I said in that time that Raleigh grew up as a hockey market that night. Because if you Rod Brindamore have raised the standard of what's expected out of this organization, if Tom Dundon has been adamant about we want to win a Stanley Cup, and you've been in the playoffs as many years in a row as you have, this isn't the fluky, hey, man, let's get in and see what happens in 2002. Hey, man, we got in 2006 and magic happened, and we're now celebrating it 20 years later. Hey, 2009, Paul Maurice is back, which put a pin in that. Paul Maurice is back. Hey, man, here come I forgot what he referenced, what he used to call the guys, like the mongrels or something like that. So he referenced it as something as like this underdog group that he labeled them, these grungy dudes or whatever it is. And they go on and they get swept in the Eastern Conference Finals by the Pittsburgh Penguins. So this was
by a war machine.
Oh no, I mean that they weren't beating that Penguins team straight up. It was a success just to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. All right. Nobody was beating that team. Got it. So this was a different level. And I think what happened at the end of last year has clearly carried over into the start of the season, despite the fact that as of this recording, they're atop the Eastern Conference Finals. As of this recording, they have once again put together a season that makes you go, damn, how'd you do this? Because of all the injuries. And Brandon Bussey is doing all the interviews now. That guy has been doing the media tour because he's been a great story for the Carolina Hurricanes while they've been dealing with injury concerns with Freddie Anderson and Pyotr Kochetkov. And, of course, the defensive issues that they've been having with Jacob Slavin finally coming back and Keandre Miller and Jalen. I mean, it just goes, the list goes on and on and on and on. So all of this has kind of bled over into how
Freddie's
people.
not hurt. He's just bad.
That's right. He is bad. My bad. So here we are. That's why we are here.
Well, there's a through line that you're missing, and that is the financial portion of this. They rate, to your point about expectations.
Yes.
Well, you have expectations when you invest financially the way that Canes fans have had to do, starting with the playoff. Well, really starting with 2 regular seasons ago, but the price of the brick just keeps going up and up and up and up and up and up.
Mm-hmm.
And the playoff pricing last year was exorbitant. And I think it hit a point where Canes fans are like, fuck you. You're going to put out this effort after I just spent a mortgage payment to get in the building.
Mm-hmm.
And now, while the regular season pricing isn't the same as the level of the playoffs, it's still more than it's ever been for any regular season.
Yeah.
And I think the more you charge people and the more that they pay, the more they're going to enter with a default mode of, I'm paying all this money for this.
Yeah.
I'm paying all this money to watch Freddie give up 2 goals on the first 2 shots to be first shot Freddie. I'm paying all this money to watch Svechnikov play 8 minutes and on the 4th line. Like, that's, to your point, that's growth as a market.
Mm-hmm.
But Dundon has put his players in that position by ratcheting up the financial portion of the equation the way that he has.
I mentioned Maurice. Part of the story here was that Paul Maurice didn't want any coaches in the handshake line at the end of that one. Never mind that he has been in the handshake line before. And then he gave his philosophical reasons as to why we don't want the coaches in the handshake line. They're not the warriors that are out there.
I don't believe that the coaches should shake players' hands at the end. There's something for me visually with the camera on of just the men who played. I don't know when it changed, but I don't think it's right.
I understand where Paul Maurice is coming from, but this man just gave a press conference about context. He went viral because he talked about, well, you shotgun a beer, you go to church, but you're not going to shotgun a beer in church, right? So the man understands context. What makes you think that that's the moment to make that point to Rod Brindamore? He's focused on, well, the camera should be on the players after the wars they just went through. Well, you know what you did by deciding to make that point right then and there? Guess where the cameras were?
There was some Coach K energy there.
I don't know when this changed. It changes.
Yeah.
Just because things were like that 20 years ago doesn't mean that things don't evolve and there's a little bit different aspect of sportsmanship. Also, aren't we being a little too much with 50 guys in tracksuits? We're talking about coaches. You are just as involved in the game. You challenge plays. You had an incredible set play out of a face-off that resulted in a goal. Who did that? Also, if it's about the players, names on the cup, right?
Yeah.
It's not just players on the cup.
No.
I'm just trying to follow the logic here.
Yeah.
Mr. Cerebral Logic Man, Paul Maurice, is trying to just wow you with all his very measured conversation about things and how I feel the players should deserve all these
You don't
things.
like the NPR tone. I know that.
I get Paul's point. I don't like when he decided to do it.
Sure.
You're right. I don't like Paul Maurice's NPR tone. He's trying to wow you with his big words. Oh, by the way, who showed up in the handshake line during the Stanley Cup? Who showed up?
Paul Maurice and the Florida coaches and their staff, I believe.
Huh. All the guys in the tracksuits? Yeah, Paul Maurice is full of shit. Now, the other storyline with the Canes, we're seeing this unfold too. We're kind of seeing this with how people are talking about Rod and players and things like that. Alexander Nikishin. Remember, Alexander Nikishin was supposed to save the Canes. There's a whole Eric Tulsky moving heaven and earth and passports and trains, planes, and automobiles to get him get him here, right? But fans weren't happy with how they handled Nikishin in the postseason. And I thought in his first game, he handled things pretty well. We asked Rod Brindamore about that during the exit interview, and he was like, yeah, Ovies, shut up.
Game 5, Washington, you finally break the seal on him. Given the circumstances, he did okay.
Nope.
It said there's that reaction.
If you
to
watch
it.
the game
Sure.
and watch every shift,
right,
it was a train wreck.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is he was deer in the headlights and gave up a goal. We got lucky. It was offside.
Yes.
It was every shift pretty much you're going, oh, that's what was expected. I did not expect anything different. You know, he doesn't understand where he's supposed to go.
Yeah.
And he did a great job of picking up what we threw at him.
What do you need to do with him for him to be one of your top 6 defensemen next year?
Nikishin, learn the language. The good news about the injuries and now that it's behind us is that we got to see him play a little more, and there's obviously something there. And so now he just has to learn. If he can learn the language, we can have a relationship, can get going better. It's hard to talk to someone that you can't talk to.
Yeah.
To create the relationship with not only the coaches, with the players. And then I think he's going to take the next step.
Okay.
So hopefully this summer, all that kind of comes around a little better. And, you know, I don't want to say we're penciling him in, but he looks obviously that there's a lot to be really excited about.
Man, that just brought back the Burns and Orlov discourse.
Oh, man.
Last year is giving me.
You still got those sheets from last year?
I've got my sheets because these are the good old days when we were complaining about Burns and Orlov.
Oh, boy.
How's this lineup for you from the Islanders game? I don't have the dates on there, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Nikishin Walker, your number 1 pairing.
Yeah.
Your number 2 pairing, Joel Nystrom and Jalen Chetfield.
Okay.
Your number 3 pairing, Mike Riley and Charles Alexis Lejo. Yeah. Just missing a few names there. Gostisbehere, Miller, Slavin, et cetera, et cetera.
Now we go into the offseason, and Tom Dundon's having a year, right? You got Major League Baseball expansion talk. He buys the Portland Trailblazers. He wins a settlement.
Kind of sort of randomly bought the Trailblazers, by the way.
I don't know if it's random. Dateline November 26th of this year in a 199-page, 65,000-word order, the U.S. chief bankruptcy judge ruled that Dundon Capital Partners, Carolina Hurricanes owner Tom Dundon and executive John Zutter, are not liable for contract fraud or fiduciary duty claims in their roles with the Alliance of American Football. You'll remember that he bought the Alliance of American Football at a bargain basement price and then shut it down once he got a look at the books. And he ends up getting even more money out of Ebersol's kid. Dundon wired a total of $69.7 million, but it wasn't enough to keep the league afloat. Ebersol believed that Dundon orchestrated the demise for the sole purpose of divesting the Alliance of American Football for its most important assets, its technology and player contracts. Dundon disputed that assertion, English, and maintained that contractually he had only committed to roughly $70 million in investment and that he made good faith efforts. And again, Ebersol and the crew had to pay him a bunch of money.
Imagine just having 70 mil laying around to throw at the Alliance of American Football. You could have asked me before the beginning of the segment, hey, Joe, what does AAF stand for? And I would not have been able to come up for it for $69 million.
I remember when he did that, and Adam Gold and I interviewed Dundon, and his cavalier attitude of, oh, I got like different bank accounts where that comes from. Don't you worry about it, which gets us to him buying the Portland Trailblazers. And what does that mean? And we talked to Luke DeCock about this, and this always comes back down to Major League Baseball. So when I saw the email alert that Tom Dundon was buying the Portland Trailblazers, I had to double check, like, wait, what is he thinking about? No, he's actually purchased it.
Portland makes a lot of sense. Tom Dundon can use basically the same playbook he used with the Hurricanes with the Trailblazers. It's a franchise that's not dead, it's dormant, but it's very much that sort of Stockholm syndrome we talk about with the Hurricanes between 2009 and 2019. He's probably going to get a lot of money from the city and county to fix up the arena and put in new revenue opportunities like view bars and bunker suites and multi-purpose rooms. And
I was stopping right there. We're still waiting on those bunker suites
and the view bar.
We're still waiting on that view bar. Now, my understanding is that even though those bunker suites aren't open, they are triaging that thing and making it work during games.
Sunday
right now
was the first time that I went down the old elevator, walked past what used to be the media / team meal room and all that other stuff. And it's so different. My gosh.
Yeah. It's a long way.
It's a different building.
Now, there's a lot of theories as to why he's doing all these types of things and why he's opening up an ownership stake, a minority ownership stake in the Carolina Hurricanes.
You said he bought the Blazers, but if he's breaking off a chunk of the Canes to pay for the Blazers, did he really buy the Blazers?
Everything is leveraged. Remember, everything is leveraged. I think in the long run, what he is doing, if I can theorize for year in review 2027, all right, let's go 2 years in advance.
Whoa.
Let's go 2 years. We're still doing this in 2 years, right? Right?
2026. Let's get through that one.
All right, fine. Fair enough. So, regardless, I think in year in review 2027, if Jerry Jones decides to sell the Cowboys or something happens with the Cowboys, I think Dundon is trying to put himself in position to buy an NFL team. Maybe not the Cowboys, but he's trying to buy an NFL team because that's the ultimate rich guy flex. That's the ultimate American rich guy flex. And it's getting increasingly difficult to do it without like Saudi investment money at this point.
David Tepper's money.
So you are going to leverage the Canes. You're going to leverage the Portland Trail Blazers. Maybe even leverage a Major League Baseball team because that was the summer conversation. We talked to Brian Fork, who's the CEO of the Carolina Hurricanes at a MLB Raleigh event. And here are the things that he said that Major League Baseball, what Raleigh needs to do to get a Major League Baseball.
From when you took the job and the tasks that you were given to where we are today, what is the latest on Major League Baseball and Raleigh?
So I think there's 4 big things that you really have to show. Let's say baseball said tomorrow we're going to announce 2 expansion teams. Yeah. I think any city needs to have 4 things. You need to have an owner. You need to have a stadium location and stadium itself. You need to have essentially a season ticket base or people that have committed to buy season tickets, and you need to have a corporate sponsorship package or plan. The first one we've got. Tom wants to do it. He's got the wherewithal to do it.
Yeah.
That's a big one. The second one, stadium site and location. For us to do it, it's going to have to be a publicly financed stadium. There's going to be a lot of people involved in making something like that happen, local government officials, state government officials. I think we have a lot of options in Raleigh, whether it's land that's currently owned by government. Is it a privately owned site and you got to make a plan? Is it downtown south? I think season ticket base is pretty easy. We've got already have a large enough, affluent enough population to buy baseball tickets to sell out a season. And then the corporate sponsorship base is the one that you see poo-pooed a little bit, but I don't accept the idea that we can't make it work. It's worked with the Hurricanes.
So again, that was Brian Fork on the future of Major League Baseball. You got that wry grin on your face.
Yeah, owned by the government. Yep.
Speaking of our other professional sports teams here in the state of North Carolina, shout out to the Hornets, man. Never forget, they won the Summer League Championship.
They did.
While we were at ACC kickoff, I looked for Summer League Championship merch.
Any evidence of it, yeah.
Couldn't find it. They finally released shirts. They charge you $50 for them.
Oh, man.
Say what you want about our pop-up shops. We never charge you $50 for a shirt.
No.
We would never charge you $50 for a shirt, okay? But the Hornets are charging $50 for a shirt. They drafted Concanipple, and I guess they're doing okay.
Yeah, Concanipple's really good.
Yeah, what a surprise, right? And while Dundon has been in the news, he hasn't really been doing a lot of interviews, but he has been in the news. You know who hasn't been in the news?
No one, the guy not throwing drinks or taking hats off.
David Tepper. The Carolina Hurricanes owner, David Tepper, has not been in the news. And I was trying to find a spot I feel because we're still in the midst of it and the story isn't over yet for the season, the Carolina Panthers, even though they did blow it against the New Orleans Saints. It's funny. As I was going through how to approach this Free Jazz year in review, I didn't really know what to do with the Panthers.
Well, it can be difficult because they've shown a lot of progress, but they've been inconsistent. They've had a very NC State-like season.
Yes.
But if we're looking at it through the lens of this podcast, we had a win thanks to the Panthers this year and thanks to Carson Carell because he's the one who pointed out to us, hey, there's these parallels from the Panthers' previous 2 Super Bowl trips, and it includes Ohio State winning titles. It includes opening the season with the Jaguars. And we advanced this theory as to why you should be betting on the Panthers to win the NFC Championship. And our friends, our colleagues, our podcast colleagues,
I mean, because because us and pardon my take, same thing, man. Right? It's the same thing.
But the number of people who texted me who were like, "Hey, you were on pardon my take," and I'm like, "Oh, that's cool."
And then when the Panthers this year had kind of gotten back into the playoff mix, they had repurposed that clip, and then I got
we appreciate that.
We appreciate, and and
Carson.
It got my DMs to repopulate with people. Have you seen this? Have you seen this? And we should probably still put this on a shirt. But PFT commenter did say they seem like nice guys in reference to you and me.
Right?
They seem like nice guys. Seem like they have a good podcast.
Oh.
So right now, if you look at my bio on like Blue Sky or the OG Media account on TikTok and Instagram, it has that quote. They seem like nice guys, seem like they have a good podcast. PFT commenter. So we appreciate that from Pardon My Take. No, I think if there was a Panthers hook, it's not about David Tepper, it's not about Dave Canales. It is about one guy and one guy only, Bryce Young. And every week you talk about the cycle. If I was our friends at WFNZ, I would have one of these in the background and having the cycle of Bryce Young. And the cycle of Bryce Young is an interesting one. The GOAT. He's the GOAT. Look at all the game-winning drives. Look at his fourth down conversions. And then he does absolute nothing in the next game and they lose. You got to move on. Who's in the draft? Who could they trade? Don't give him why are you going to pick up his fifth-year contract? And then they win. Game-winning drive. We do the cycle over and over and over again with Bryce Young. So I think what I've come to the conclusion on with the Carolina Panthers and Bryce Young in particular is that he is who he is. They clearly can win with him. And if we know how contracts work in the NFL and salary caps work in the NFL, you might as well take advantage of his deal for as long as you can, pick up that fifth-year option, get better around him, and make a true go of this thing next year. If we're looking ahead for 2026 in the Carolina Panthers, it's going to be consistency. Not because I think Bryce Young, for the most part, that's what it is. The consistency now has to come in the form of the wide receivers that they have drafted the last couple of years. Tedero McMillan, I think, was a great pickup in the draft. That's proving to be true this year. Awesome. Now you're looking for that next step up. You're looking to stay healthy on defense, okay, and get better on defense as well. And of course,
there's still some missing parts on defense, but they added some in the draft this year, which was nice for Dan Morgan.
And of course, you need Dave Canales to also get consistent too. What does Dave Canales want to be? He says one thing, speaking of the cycle, we're a run this, run that, run this. Okay, well then why did you abandon the run in these critical moments? Well, it's about balance. Okay, well, you decided to never throw in this loss against the New Orleans Saints, where the Saints in that first game at Bank of America Stadium absolutely disrespected you by not thinking that Bryce Young was going to beat you, and that turned out to be true. Okay? So there's a consistency in Dave Canales you're looking for as well. So right now, if there was a story or a hook of the Carolina Panthers, is that after years of being worthless as a topic and people checking out, to the point where a podcast decided to announce to the world, we're not going to do any more podcasts about the Panthers because it's taking time away from our family. That's how bad things got this year. To getting themselves into what you would consider an average NFL team, where 1 week they look good, the next week you want it back, and then they go back to looking good. There's a lot of teams like that right now in the NFL. Now they're looking for that next step, and that is a level of consistency and not finding yourself in this dumpster fire situation that they're in now in the NFC South. But then again, much like we talk about triangle good, there's a certain thing about the NFC South that leads to this kind of disaster piece.
Yeah.
A disaster piece of a division where nobody wants it. So the Carolina Panthers have been a content factory for us, specifically for Bryce Young. But I do think that the Carolina Panthers story of 2025 is very similar to the Carolina Hurricanes in that you're in these years of purgatory. You're in these years where people are just checked out on you. And this year finally brought people back to the table only to get hurt again. Different levels of hurt. There's different levels of hurt.
No, there's still 3 games left.
I get that.
Well, the story's not unwritten.
2 games left. But
they're 7-7. They play 17 games now.
Joe, remember,
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Remember where we are. We're at 2 hours.
I know. I feel good.
Feel good?
Yeah.
I'm just double checking.
Yeah.
Because we're about to break records on this one.
I know.
Are you ready to go into hour 3?
Yes.
Okay. It almost feels like something we should do as we continue with this podcast. Year 1 gets you 1 hour. Year 2 gets you 2 hours.
No.
Year 3 gets you 3 hours. We get to year 4?
No.
4 hours?
No.
Should we call a doctor?
Yes.
Probably got to call a doctor if we get to hour 4, don't we? That's what I thought. Now, look, to wrap the point on the Panthers, because I know we spent a whole chunk of time on so many other topics so far, and I'm not trying to be shortchange the Panthers in any shape or form. To wrap up the point that I was making in the similarities between the Carolina Panthers and the Carolina Hurricanes, they are at a point in their franchise trajectory where you're still hard pressed to get people to buy into you every week. And you give people reasons to go, forget it. I'm moving on. No big deal. They're crawling back into it. There have been some instances where the good feelings are there. I know out in Charlotte, they talk about them nonstop, but I just don't know if the Panthers have truly taken over as a statewide thing this season. Can that be changed? As we kind of look back on the 10-year anniversary of the Super Bowl run, it's not the same thing.
No, I mean, they do it to themselves. Like you beat the Rams, who are the best team in the NFL.
They do.
You get a week off. You have a chance to actually take a chokehold of the division, thanks to Atlanta beating Tampa. And then all of a sudden you go out and you lose to the Saints again. And it's like that shouldn't happen. So they only have themselves to blame.
Ready to bring this thing home?
College football, ACC football, the Big Vortex.
College football time. I actually want to apologize to Manny Diaz, Duke head football coach.
Okay.
You go back to ACC kickoff, and I want to say I don't want to say I pushed him. There is somebody that I did push that I will bring forth in this segment. But with Manny Diaz, I was like, look, man, you were on the beneficial end of very close games last year.
Mm-hmm.
That's not sustainable. And I've made this reference before when he was the defensive coordinator at Miami and the turnover chain was the thing and everybody decided to come up with their own ripoff. Remember when Florida State had like the turnover garbage can?
There were some weird iterations.
All sorts of weird iterations, right? Somewhere, what was the old defensive coordinator at Virginia Tech? Bud Foster?
Mm-hmm.
Bud Foster's like, I had the freaking lunch pail. Like, come on, it's all remix of my lunch pail, okay? So Diaz, when he was the defensive coordinator at Miami, that season was all about turnover luck. And that's not something you can replicate. But here's where I was wrong about Manny Diaz. You see, what had happened was it wasn't the game-to-game being on the right side of one-score games. You see, Manny Diaz was on the right side of the tiebreakers in those margins, and they get to the ACC championship game, and they managed to get to the ACC championship game, win the ACC title, and miss out on the college football playoff. And I know this is still fresh in our minds, but it bears repeating. I'm not quite sure how you could ever top that level of triangle good to win the ACC championship and not make the college football playoff. That is just chef's kiss for what Manny Diaz was able to do. And one of the clips that we had that probably went the most viral on social media was comparing Manny Diaz to Mario Cristobal and their respective times.
Duke controls its own destiny here.
They do.
They beat Virginia. They have the tiebreak over Virginia.
Yes.
They win out. They put themselves in the ACC championship game.
Mm-hmm.
Going for 2 for Manny Diaz, by the way. That's a great call. Since Duke hired Manny Diaz, Duke is now 9-4 in the ACC since the start of the 2024 season. Mario Cristobal with Miami and all the advantages that Miami has, 8-4 in the ACC. Now let's go back and look at the 25 games that Manny Diaz coached at Miami. 16-9. That's not too bad. Hey, well, we didn't win the division. We didn't do this. We didn't do that. 16-9 in a pandemic. Not bad. Mario Cristobal, who you paid all this money to leave Oregon in his last 25 games in the ACC, 13 and 12. 13 and 12. I hope somewhere Manny Diaz was lighting up a Cuban cigar and enjoying the moment.
Of course, Duke goes on to lose games like that Virginia game, and Miami fans, the regular season Virginia game, Miami fans were all in the mentions. Once the U gets a hold of these things, it's relentless.
Sure.
So much so that Mike Ryan from the Levitard show, Michael Ryan Ruiz, who cosplays as a Miami fan, in my opinion, got in the mentions. Like, oh, this aged poorly. I'm like, okay, well, who ended up in the title game and won the damn thing, and who still hasn't done it? In all the years that Miami has been in this damn league, they've shown up to the conference championship game. How many times, Joe?
Once. And
lost. Got embarrassed in that game by Clemson. My dad to this day still has trauma. It was me, my brother. The kids were there. We were all in Charlotte. Shout out to Kevin Best for getting us access to some really good seats through the ACC.
Nice.
And that was a shit show. Okay. Manny Diaz.
Fairly certain that was the same episode I told you that there was a non-zero chance that the ACC champion could miss the college football playoff.
This was true. But did they?
The champion did.
The champion did. But the ACC did not. So
you're welcome, Miami.
See, Manny Diaz has got his fingers all over it.
Yeah.
He was a defensive coordinator when you got to your one and only ACC championship game appearance. And he's the reason why you're in this current iteration of the college football playoff. So look, man, I never thought that we could hit this echelon of triangle good. And Manny Diaz managed to do it. And I was not exactly thrilled with the hire when he got that job when Mike Elko left for Texas A&M. I was like, come on, man, you've coached at luxury programs. Duke is not a luxury program, but they put a considerable amount of investment, which we've talked a lot about on this podcast. And they brought that thing home with the wonkiest ACC championship you could ever imagine. So salute to Manny Diaz. Now, to the rest of the triangle.
I'm going to say that was the highlight, certainly, for the Big Vortex.
As I was going back through old shows, you know what I forgot about that happened this year? Do you remember Operation Blue or Code Blue or whatever it was called back at the beginning of the year?
What the Hulu special was?
No. Let's have Brendan Marks of The Athletic explain what happened at the beginning of the year.
Are we really doing this because I had a code name?
Right.
As far as the Carolina Blue Matter is concerned, it's interesting potentially in one way. My understanding so far, and what we've reported at The Athletic, is that this has all been done in the vein of due diligence. 2 league members sue the ACC. You have no idea how it's going to shake out. And we never took legal action, obviously. We were never close to taking legal action. We were just, looking.
I would expect Carolina to do that. I mean, that's what they should be doing.
That is taking what they are saying at face value. And so in the documents that we've obtained and that now are public because of a lawsuit filed by David McKenzie, you can see how vague some of these billing invoices are.
Yeah.
And what he's accusing North Carolina of basically is you are redacting this when these bills should be publicly available. If we get copies of these bills and detailed copies of the invoices, and it shows that, hey, North Carolina, maybe this wasn't due diligence. Maybe this was a little bit further down the line than you're talking about. Then suddenly we're talking about the flagship member of the ACC not just doing something, which is clear that they've already done the thing, but lying about what exactly you characterized it.
Didn't John Pryor already give the game away when he went after Bubba? Like back in May or whatever that was?
But he doesn't have nearly the unilateral power that a university does.
Gotcha.
To make a conference realignment choice. And if we find out that North Carolina was more seriously making inquiries, I'm just saying that's the one way to me that this story becomes a little more interesting.
So that was Brendan Marks of The Athletic with the Blue Matter, the Carolina Blue Matter. Because you got to remember at the time, back in January, because I was like, why was I doing the show from home? We had a snow event. That's why. So I'm talking to Brendan. This all comes up. I'm like, why? Oh, that's right. Because Clemson and Florida State were still in their legal process with the ACC.
That was settled. Yeah.
So which then gets us to ACC kickoff. Okay. Gets us to ACC kickoff. And while Bill Belichick was the big circus there were rumblings that that UNC was preparing to leave for the SEC. There was something that Greg Barnes from Inside Carolina had reported. I know Andrew Jones had talked about that as well over at Tar Heel 24/7. And we went back to that to discuss what exactly is going on.
Let's say North Carolina, with the investment that they've made into football, they're checking off all the things that they wanted and they're getting more money. Is it enough to stay happy in the ACC?
So the question for Carolina, to me, isn't necessarily a financial one. They'll figure that out. But this really does come down to, are you going to be the one who pulls the plug on this thing and says, you know what? We've had an unbelievable run. This conference has been our identity. We have been this conference. We have run this conference, but it's in our best financial interest to moving forward to make a different business decision.
Think about how much can happen between now and 2030 in the world of television. In fact, in the last couple of weeks, we've already seen some massive changes on the horizon. And I'm only bringing this up to caution people that the money you think is going to be there in 2030 might not be as great as you think. And there's going to be some budgeting that takes place that benefits the big dogs. And you have to ask yourself, if you're North Carolina, if you go to the SEC, are you truly a big hitter? Or are you just there to basically fill out their portfolio? You become an asset.
I mean, that's basically what it comes down to.
Yeah.
You're going to have a bigger corporation come in and offer you a whole lot more money, but it's going to be less control.
Yeah, less control. And why would you bring UNC in, Joe? To the SEC?
To be a mark and lose football games?
Pretty much. That's what the money's for, to quote Don Draper. That's what the money is for. So I had forgotten about all the rumblings around UNC leaving the ACC. And I think the reason why I had forgotten about it is because the ACC Clemson Florida State thing got settled at the end of the summertime. And essentially, we've got at least some semblance of peace in our time over the next couple of years as we approach 2030 and the exit fee drops. The exit fee will drop.
We talked to Jim Phillips in Charlotte about some of the changes that they made, proposals that they made, and how I believe his incentive-based model would be one that the SEC and Big Ten potentially look at and say, now, wait a second, why are we carrying you? You know, let's have a meritocracy here.
Now, yes, you gave him a lot of credit. He deserves a lot of credit for seeing where these things were going. And now everybody has this kind of idea. And we've seen reports that the Big Ten might consider this type of thing. Heck, they were flirting with private equity money, which set off
Big
Michigan,
Ten,
or the Big Ten. Yeah, Michigan and USC have been like, yeah, we're not so sure about that. So that's quieted down, but it's not going to go away. And one other part of this, which will transition us to the Bill Belichick of it all. Because remember, part of the Bill Belichick hire, the spin wasn't just about, well, we're bringing the Super Bowl winner to bring legitimacy to our football program. It was also to create an asset and a brand that was enticing to the SEC. Can you imagine Bill Belichick in the SEC or to the Big Ten? And we talked to UNC AD Bubba Cunningham towards the end of the summer. And we asked him about these rumors, the positioning that has been publicly out there related to leaving the ACC.
What is the future of North Carolina and their conference affiliation?
I think the ACC has been great. Now, obviously, the lawsuit settled, and that created a revenue sharing model that's completely different than anything we've had before. But until you experience what's going to happen financially, I think what we've set up for, and particularly with this coaching staff, we can make a lot of money in the ACC that certainly closes any gap between the SEC and the Big Ten. And so I think for the top end schools in our league, I think it's great. And I was reading just the other day, I think Whit Babcock was talking about the other leagues are going to do that. And I think he's right. There's the teams at the top end of a league want to be compensated differently than the teams that just don't have the same following. Again, we're doing it as a department, right? And I've said it. We're going to pay the footballs and basketballs a fair amount of money, and the rest we're trying to subsidize. Well, the same goes for our league. It's unfortunate. That's not the way college athletics has been for the last 25 or 30 years, but it's a new direction that we're headed.
Would you say the leadership at Carolina has an open mind about the future in the ACC as opposed to having just tunnel vision for the SEC?
Yes. Yeah, the league has been good for us. The financial model is changing. What do you experience the new financial model, see how that works, and then give some thoughtful consideration to the future.
So there you go. That was Bubba Cunningham with us later that summer before the start of the college football season, related to all the rumors and rumblings about the SEC, the Big Ten, and of course those financial incentives, the success initiatives that the ACC had agreed to, and at least given us some labor peace in our time. But speaking of that Bubba Cunningham interview, labor peace in our time, Joe. Labor peace in our time. I like that. Speaking of Bubba Cunningham, I wanted to wait till the end of the year to break this one out. I wanted a full season of Bill Belichick and UNC to play out before I brought this clip back out. And the way this clip plays out is that you give Bubba Cunningham some credit.
Yeah.
Like, hey, everybody's making this big deal about John Pryor, the BOT guy, and Lee Roberts, the chancellor, and how this all came together. And Bubba was put in an awkward spot too, because remember, Bubba had his list of guys who he wanted. And there's an alternate, speaking of gemstones and Destination Charlotte and all these permutations. there was the possibility that John Summerall is not at Florida now.
Or Matt Campbell's not at Penn State. Sure.
Right. All sorts of things. Instead, they end up with Bill Belichick. And you set this up saying, hey, man, you deserve a little bit of credit too. But he said something that made me go, oh, come on, Bubba.
Well, I've always said when you're trying to hire a coach, the thing you're looking for is fit. And the best way to try to figure out what's the best fit for us is to get a lot of people to give you opinions and thoughts about where are we today, where we're trying to head, and how do you best find somebody that tries to get you along that path. And quite frankly, it doesn't matter to me who gets quote unquote credit for anything. The idea is we're doing this together. I mean, the biggest thing that we can do as a department is be aligned with the rest of the university and align where do we think we're headed and what's our best path to get there. And that's what we do. And, whether it's Bill Belichick or Aaron Matson, who's the best fit for us at the time.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. So I don't know. It's a really soft answer, I guess, but I think it's the reality of where we are.
All right. I'll ask a more pointed question then. How does Bill Belichick fit? I get Aaron Matson. Interesting you bring up Aaron Matson as an example here. Or, Joe's wearing the Carolina soccer shirt today, right?
Well, Damon was there 7 years.
Damon, that seems like that sounds like a fit. How does Bill Belichick fit? He never coached in college. He's got his Super Bowls, I get all that kind of stuff, but there's a learning curve on top of trying to get Carolina good quick. So how does that fit exactly?
Well, I think what we've said is, how are we going to maximize the revenue in this new model of the ACC? And how do we think we can sustain athletic success in football?
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's hire the best coach possible. And so you go hire an 8-time Super Bowl champion and say, okay, can he build the foundation for us to continue that path so that we're consistently good? Can we do, quite frankly, what Clemson did 15 years ago? Totally different. I get it, from the GA or whatever Dabo was back then to, I don't know if he's a receivers coach. I have no idea. What was he before he was a head coach?
He's a receivers coach. Yeah.
I mean, absolutely fantastic. And quite frankly, no one wanted to hire him.
No.
And so he gets the job. So in Bill's case, hey, we're bringing this guy in and we have a whole different model of where we're headed. And we're hoping this is going to put us to that next level and then continue to even get better from that.
So again, that was our conversation with Bubba Cunningham. We spent about 30 minutes with Bubba in that one. So still didn't get an answer. What are you laughing at?
Well, he did say it was the best possible coach. 8 Super Bowl rings.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Hey, man, I was wrong about dollar bill this year. The sheet.
Yeah.
I'll have to laminate it and put it somewhere, but had that schedule.
Dude, in going back and mapping out today's year in review, we probably could have spent the entire thing on Bill Belichick because there were so many things that happened in 2025 with Bill Belichick. I didn't quite know how to handle this portion of it.
The CBS This Morning interview.
Pablo Torre. Will he or won't he coach? Remember the contract?
Yeah.
Because his buyout dropped.
Deadline or whatever that was.
So let's actually get to the summer where we've got the Pablo's all in the offseason. Because what else are you going to talk about? So he's found his muse, Jordan Hudson. All right. I mean, let's be real about Pablo Torre. I know people will point to the journalistic idea of what happened with the Clippers. But you know what really put Pablo on the map this year? Why he had a hell of a 2025? It's because of Jordan Hudson. Hard stop. You're not going to convince me otherwise. So he zeroed in on this, and he started to poke around with the whole band. Remember the band? Jordan Hudson was banned from the facility. Of course, we were like, we're not so sure about that. And Pablo came on the podcast. But Pablo was relentless. He wouldn't stop. He started floating the idea that Bill Belichick might not even be coaching Labor Day weekend.
Pablo is of the belief that June 1st looms large because of the buyout for Bill Belichick going from $10 million to $1 million. That contract detail has been a talking point about the contract since he took the job. But the dynamics have changed from when he took the job at the end of last year and where we are today.
This is for an NFL team or another school to come in and say, after June 1st, this is what the buyout becomes. If North Carolina were to say, hey, we don't want you anymore, they would owe him the $30 million that is guaranteed.
Bill Belichick himself could write a check for $1 million to UNC and say, hey, man, I'm out. But what does that mean for Stephen Belichick? What does that mean for Mike Lombardi? What does that mean for everybody else that he has brought over to UNC? He's not doing that. Okay, well, we get back to what about another team? What about today gives you the impression that an NFL team is going to scoop Bill Belichick up after June 2nd? Like, even if they fire somebody in the middle of the season and they say, hey, Bill's time. After all of this, and this is why this story is important. This is why the palace intrigue and the power dynamics do matter on a sports sense, and why it's not, quote unquote, beneath us to talk about it, because everything that has happened would indicate to you that not a soul in the NFL is going to hire that man. All of this is to say he will be coaching against TCU. He will be coaching.
Yeah, I think he'll coach for at least one season. I would not think about much more beyond that.
Nope. So I was right about that. That's for sure. Two, also, well, I have to do a better job of this. I was right about everything regarding Bill Belichick.
From the jump, I should say.
Every single aspect about Bill Belichick's hire at UNC, I was right about. Okay?
I thought he could.
Right down to the Jordan Hudson of it all. Because the one thing that I always was bothered by this throughout the year, was the dismissive nature of Jordan's role in all of this. Yes, there's a tabloid aspect of it. But let's move beyond Jordan herself. It's not about Jordan Hudson. People wanted to make it about her. It wasn't about her. It was about Bill's relationship to her. It was always about Bill, right down to the New York Post stories about family blowups in the Keenan Football Center. Okay? So, yeah, all of that played into Belichick's stink around the NFL. Why do we want this? Why do we want Mike Lombardi? Why do we want to hire all of his lackeys? Okay. And there's an aspect of what's next. Okay. Because they fired Freddie Kitchens. They fired the special teams guy. All right, cool. Freddie Kitchens had to go. So now the question becomes, are you going to go out and actually hire a college offensive coordinator to get this thing into shape? Or are you going to hire another one of your guys? Like, are we looking at the possibility of Joe Judge, offensive coordinator at UNC? You see what I'm getting at? See what I'm getting at? Right? Right. So, as we said in that clip, he does get to the TCU game. And Joe, well, we'll always have that first drive.
When you turn on the TV tonight for the pregame, you probably said to yourself at some point, wow, A, this is what Carolina football should look like. B, I had no idea Carolina football could look like this.
And for one beautiful scripted offensive series to start things off and one defensive series, it looked the part. But unfortunately, football does go beyond the script. Saying TCU was going to win this game was not a hot take. It was not a bold proclamation. Nobody could predict that.
But I want to be super clear about this, because again, there are two things that are always on the head coach: the start of the game, the start of the second half. Joe, it was 20-7 at the half with a pick six. Like, it wasn't a disaster at the half.
Joe, the reason why I'm going to say I disagree with you on this is because after the scripted play, after the scripted
they
drive,
couldn't do anything.
They couldn't
offensively,
do jack
they couldn't do anything.
shit.
I get that.
Know it's bad when ESPN has a graphic and whoever came up with the graphic.
PM.
Dude.
I love that Herb Street immediately was like, I'm not sure I've ever seen a graphic like
They
this.
didn't complete a pass until past 10 o'clock.
Right. But what I'm saying is, even if you took the optimistic view that you fought in the first half, it was 20-7 with a pick six, a correctable mistake. There's no defending the third quarter.
No.
And falling behind 41-7 the way that they did in the fourth quarter. Like there's no way to defend that.
And again,
that's Joe. To be clear.
Yeah.
That's on the coach.
I thought it was interesting to go back and to your points about that's on coaching. Did North Carolina improve as the season went on?
Not on offense, for sure.
No, it did not. So let's take us to the end of the year. Even defensively, they started to fall apart late, right? And it started with Wake Forest, where all this talk about the defense being good, well, Wake Forest ran it on their ass. In the Duke game, they had their moments, but they bit on the fake field goal. That's why the special team guy had to go too. And of course, you got NC State and that no-show at Carter Finley Stadium. And he gets swept by the vortex, if you will. And he goes 4-8 in his first season, not your 8-4 when you're looking at your trusty handy dandy sheet.
Bill Belichick went from counting 15 wins to counting $20 million. I mean, that is the story.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, that's it.
Yeah.
He doesn't care. He got run by Wake. They should have won the game against Duke. Man, he pulled out a couple of rabbits from his hat. They won the game. And now this game, I never thought there was a moment in this game where Carolina was going to win.
North Carolina and Bill Belichick are not immune from all the other aspects of what we see in college athletics, in that business still runs the day. And that general attitude, and this is why I ask, get off of social media and talk to actual Carolina fans. And if you talk to actual Carolina fans, they'll tell you, yeah, I'm embarrassed by this. If they're not going to move on from them, then they'll speak with their wallets. If they think they're going to get the same kind of season ticket renewal for next year, if they think that Keenan's going to be this cool place to hang out, man, you got to bring Ludacris every Saturday at 10 a.m. because otherwise ain't nobody showing up for this crap next year.
The problem is Lee Roberts and John Pryor, the people that they convinced to give money to get Bill Belichick, they're not convinced they were wrong. They're not. Those people are not convinced they were wrong. And you know what's really hard to do right now, and this, particularly in this political environment, is get people like that to admit that they were wrong.
How could you forget about Ludacris?
I forgot about Ludacris.
I was there for Ludacris. It was a fantastic time.
I forgot about
MJ
and LT and Roy and
man. And here and
all went hard. I didn't forget about the play that Manny ran with the ineligible receiver in the slot and the old okey doke and getting a touchdown there. You know, I didn't forget about Dabo Sweeney running a double pass to a receiver on the very first play of the game.
Now
didn't forget about that. Didn't forget about our guy Des Kitchings running a direct snap to the running back in overtime.
It was bad
to beat Carolina at the goal line again. One of his plays.
And by the way, if you think I'm wrong about how the crowds are going to be or how the season ticket renewal is going to go or fans checking out, let's go back to the TCU game, shall we?
I know people have been clowning the third quarter exodus of Keenan, of the fans. I don't blame the fans at all.
41-7.
Because you also have decades of institutional trauma unfolding in the third quarter for anybody who has ever given a damn about Carolina football. And Carolina football fans do exist, but Carolina football fans have also been sold multiple times. This is when we're going to take football seriously. No, you don't understand. Now we're serious. We're going to fulfill the promise. Here we are. And that was the most eye-opening part to me last night as I was thinking about it. I watched, what was the difference from last night and Mac Brown? What was the difference between last night and Larry Fedora? What was the difference between last night and John Bunting? There wasn't one. The defense was still missing tackles. They got so deflated and so inward, they stopped playing football. They stopped until they slightly recovered there with a change of pace with Max Johnson. So if you're telling me a multiple Super Bowl champion, the greatest of all time, comes here and you're getting the same crap on defense, which is his thing, as Mac Brown, what are we doing here, man?
To that point,
what a season.
To that point of what are we doing here, may I present to you Bill Belichick, hard at work this offseason. Got to work that transfer portal. We got to put a coaching staff together. We're going to get better, Joe. In the meantime, TMZ, Bill Belichick was all smiles at Jordan Hudson's cheer competition in Atlanta. Is he wearing UNC stuff again? That was another common through line that really made you mad as the season progressed. He never wore UNC stuff. And here we are. So I don't see how things are changing. Probably going to it's a much more difficult schedule next year. They're going all in on freshmen. They had a signing class of about 40. there's this idea that A, they're going to be impactful from the jump. B, they're going to be around as this foundational piece for Bill Belichick season 3. Okay. And again, you're also trusting Mike Lombardi to do the right thing, which, hey, man, I'll bet against that every single time and come out on top. Every single time. Betting against Mike Lombardi, I'm going to come out on top. So and going through that and seeing that TMZ clip also, or seeing that TMZ tweet, makes me think about our conversation with Andrew Jones a couple of weeks ago, where when you don't have football, all this other stuff goes to the side because you're focused on the actual games and the week to week. But now that that's gone and there's no information flowing, you allow for what happened leading up to the start of the season to happen again. And I don't know how UNC thinks that's good for business, which is why I got back to the start of the season with that TCU game and people leaving in the third quarter. And as you said, and rightfully so, Caleb Wilson being at that football game and going viral for it kind of set the tone for how the rest of the year was going to go, because all eyes were back on Hubert Davis and this guy going, oh yeah, man, basketball is the thing that we absolutely love, right? So I thought that was all interesting. I don't know. Do you have any final thoughts on Bill Belichick year one?
They did an awful job putting the team together. Then they made a mistake of redoing it after the spring when the second portal opened. So they never gave themselves a chance. So they devalued their own spring, which was worthless. They rejigger their roster for the start of the season. No one was on the same page. They didn't get enough talented players on offense. They didn't use the talented players on offense that they had left over and put them in positions to be successful.
Yeah.
They never cared enough to prepare the teams for what was about to come to them.
Keyword care.
They didn't care enough to say, hey, guys, every time we take the field, it's going to be our opponent's Super Bowl. Every coach we face this year is going to want to beat us other than Frank Reich. I got you covered when we see Frank Reich in Stanford. Every other game was almost to the T was an abject disaster for them, including some of the wins.
Yeah.
Okay. So the whole year, from the spring missteps to putting the team together to signing the center from Holy Cross as your big portal splash while Caleb Downs is literally out there.
Yeah.
And would have been the linchpin of your defense the way Rodney Harrison was back in the day for the Patriots. You literally did none of the things that made you successful with the Patriots. None. Not one. So here you are back in the cycle again. You're going to build with whatever. Who cares? Because you know why? You don't care. That's why we started the season with you on the wall. You did not respect the big vortex. That's why you're not on the wall anymore. Okay.
Out.
So you want me to change how we talk about Dave Doeren and figure out a new way to talk about Dave Doeren next year? I'll be happy to. I'm not going to I already figured out a better way to talk about Bill Belichick next year. Once he shows he cares, I'll show I care. Until that point, I don't. I already tried to fix your shit for you. You didn't listen.
What'd you do with that picture anyway?
It's over there.
You want to give that away at the birthday bash?
Yeah, I got another one at home too.
Ooh,
it's a great picture by Ethan Hyman. Nothing wrong with
Ethan
picture.
always takes great pictures, man. All right, folks, it's time to wrap this thing up. As I said at the beginning of today's year in review, 2025, it was not Bill Belichick. It was not Jordan Hudson. It was not Mikko Rantanen. It was not Hubert Davis, Cooper Flagg, etc. It wasn't even your summer league champ, Charlotte Hornets, or Bryce Young. The main character of 2025 was Dave Doeren. As we started this year in review with what I thought was a perfect phone call encapsulating that Military Bowl loss. And it gets us to ECU again. It always comes back to the Pirates, doesn't it? They always find their way into these triangle dynamics. And they start with a win over the Pirates, Joe. And you set the table for the rest of the football season that night while you were hanging out in the RV parking lot after they beat ECU but it wasn't in the fashion that people wanted.
Minus 15 total yards, minus 23 rushing yards, 8 passing yards,
Time of possession.
0, and this game came down to a 4th and 1 with the potential to either go to overtime or lose on a 2-point conversion. That's why people are mad.
NC State wins, Dave Doeren loses. You know, I mean that's what it was. It's 17-0. It's like they stopped playing. It just doesn't make any sense. If you haven't been paying attention to the first 12 years, it doesn't make any sense. Right. But if you have, you're like, yes, that tracks.
I'll give credit to ECU for continuing to push on their tempo. So at some point, you're going to get got on that, and they got caught flat-footed on a substitution. And Dave at halftime admitted, look, man, that's on the coaching staff for not having that prepared. And that's the point where I thought, all right, are we going to see new Dave Doeren, or are we going to see the same old Dave Doeren? Because new Dave Doeren has CJ Bailey. Here's where you put your foot on the neck of ECU. You can go into halftime with a 2-minute drill and say, look, man, we ain't messing around today. What did they do, Joe?
Look at the comment.
I know. I think the first play on that series was a draw. I'm like, oh,
what?
Come on.
Come on.
So that was where we are. Where are we on the cycle here, Joe?
That would have been.
Where are we on the cycle?
Win some games, catch some strays.
And you continued on the, hey, Joe, it's going to get toxic, man.
Joe, you're being very dismissive right now of what you already know.
Oh, come
this
on.
is Joe. Saturday is going to be like the old RBC Center for a Carolina basketball game. The first time an official doesn't throw an offsides penalty, the first time a kicker misses something anywhere near, like it's going to be toxic early. The default mode is going to be angry and toxic early.
No, you're right.
But like fans were mad at the ECU win.
Mm-hmm.
Fans were mad at the way the game started against Virginia. Fans were mad at the way the game started against Wake Forest. Now they've actually lost a game. What makes you think they're going to be more rational? What I'm saying is I don't like where this is headed for State. For Dave specifically.
For Dave.
I don't like it. It's not what you've earned. It's not what you deserve. At some point, there has to be some sort of like NC State fans, after the way they treated Kevin Keatts last year, feel like they feel like they have now
and what they got
out of it.
That's the key part. It's what they got.
Feel now there's an entitlement there.
Yes.
There's also a sense of accomplishment there.
Yes.
So I don't want Dave to get the Kevin treatment, but I suspect that's based on what we've already seen. I don't like the way that the next 2 months are shaping up for Dave Doeren and NC State football.
And what a 2 months it would be, Joe.
And that was before they played Virginia Tech at home.
Mm-hmm.
Virginia Tech, who had just fired their coach and was a 10-point underdog, ends up going into Carter Finley Stadium, beating NC State in one of those classic.
Oh, where are we on the cycle? Lose a dumb game. And it says year 14, but in this case, year 13.
It's year 13.
Now, I think it's important as we look back on 2025, what the foundational element of this year was about. He's one of the longest tenured coaches in the ACC, one of the longest tenured coaches in college football altogether. They haven't risen above what they've typically been. They've not won a division. They have not, in the case of Manny Diaz, as we said earlier, found a way to break everybody's brain, make it 7-5, and still make an ACC championship game, and then win the whole thing. You got the bowl game dynamics that are in there, and the whole basis for the conversation around Dave Doeren is how much longer do you want to put up with this shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much longer do you want to put up with this shit? And there's two key interviews or two key Dave Doeren sound bites. One we have because we were the ones who did the interview, and the other one was on his own radio show. And let's go back to ACC kickoff and our sit-down chat with Dave Doeren and kind of like where he is right now coming off of what has really been not just last year, but the last couple of years. And we brought him some OG Light, and he was kind of upset at us for only bringing him 4.
That 4-pack of OG Lights for you.
I appreciate that.
You are the one who needs that the most, given the last 5 years of ups and downs and wildness at NC State.
You only got me 4?
I think it was 10 years ago you said to me, I can't wait to be 55 and retired and working at a bait shop, and I get to second guess all of your decisions.
Dave's going to be in the YouTube comment section.
Now you're 53.
Yeah, it's 1 year at a time. Like I'm in a different place probably than other guys. Losing my father to Alzheimer's at a pretty young age, I don't look at 65 and retiring as good, because he retired in his 60s and 3 years later didn't know his name, So I'm going to look at what I do every year. I want to do the best that I can for these players, for these coaches, and for NC State. And if I feel like at some time I'm not that guy, then maybe it is time to go run the bait shop. You know what I mean? And that's okay.
Yeah.
But, I got to do the best I can while I'm doing it. And right now I'm still having fun, so I'm going to keep doing it.
Okay. I guess that's the key part of it.
We're going to keep doing what we do. It's harder in this space. My formula of identifying guys that are tough, that have the measurables, and making them into really good players through development and mentoring and leadership won't change.
How do you feel looking back on that?
Another great conversation that we had at a kickoff event. Interesting.
What?
Sometimes you go to these things and you wonder what the heck's going to happen. And we had 3 really, really, really good interviews this year.
We always have good interviews when we go to ACC kickoff. And the ones that aren't good never see the light of day. What's the beauty of this format?
So they can't all be winners now.
Hey, look, the beauty of this format, as opposed to when we had to do live radio, is I don't have to run this if it's not good. See what I'm getting at?
Mm-hmm.
So no, but I would say, and I know that some people aren't going to believe me, but I've heard from enough people that I trust, and I've actually been around NC State's program for a long time, that have said multiple times that we typically get the most out of Doeren in the conversations we have with Doeren. And the one thing that is key here is you got to do it in person.
Yeah.
You got to do it in person. That's one thing that you're absolutely right about when it comes to these interviews. And I'm so used to doing them over the phone. Dave D's bait and tackle.
We got it ready. We got the logo.
No, I know the logo's ready. The shirt's ready to go. For those that are just listening, it's this graphic with a smiling Dave Doeren that says Dave D's bait and tackle with a bass in the background. So, I'm so used to doing interviews over the phone through all the years of doing sports talk radio that this format allows you to pick up and go where we need to be.
Yeah.
Like we sat down and talked to Will Wade for 30 minutes in his office. We can do that sort of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was pretty illuminating. And the whole genesis of this, and one of the things that was in that interview too, was certain transfers that Dave and how he's been able to have success at NC State for as long as he's had that success relative to NC State has been development. And it's harder to do that now with NIL, post house, transfer portal, and everything else. And there are certain situations, like whether it's the MJ Moore situation or who's that Brandon Cisse is a guy.
Brandon Cisse, who ended up transferring to South Carolina. I said at the time, this is the kind of player they would get.
Yes.
Who didn't have any other major offers.
Yes.
Plays for them, starts for them, ends up in the NFL draft. I know the value of NFL mock drafts is very little, but the latest Field Yates mock draft had Brandon Cisse in the first round of this year's.
That's
NFL.
a classic.
Like that's a Dave.
Yes.
But special. That's the actual Dave Doeren special.
So that's soundbite number one. The other soundbite I don't have, but we've referenced it enough lately that y'all know what I'm talking about. And it's him on his radio show openly talking about how he, and I quote, hated last year's squad.
Hated coaching last year's team.
Yes. Hated coaching last year's team.
Yeah.
Okay. And he loves this group, which ties back into that conversation where it's a year-to-year thing. And he loves this group. Let's do it again, right? But that's why there was the conversation that was around Dave Doeren this year. There was NC State fans that were looking for something new. There was Dave's own words that would make you go, how much longer you want to do this sort of thing? And of course,
they lost 4 or 5 games. The only one that was a win was Campbell, which was a JV team.
Right.
So you get to the end of October.
Mm-hmm. Where are we in the cycle?
At 500. And people want to fire him.
But Joe, let's get Rally to Win home night game to become bowl eligible. We know which one that one was.
Well, the biggest one was Georgia Tech.
The Georgia Tech game.
They poured it out.
Yes.
Then they get smoked by Miami. Then they get Florida State at night at home.
Yeah. I got that.
Oh,
Don't
become
break.
bowl eligible. Then the subtext there is, it could be worse.
Could be. Could be worse. Who you gonna get, Joe?
And
who you gonna get? Don't worry, that clip's coming out. Who you gonna get? There it is.
We get to the part where everyone loves them the most.
There it is.
But here we are to the part of the cycle where Dave Doeren has it down pat. This is the cycle where every year you get mad. You're mad about Duke. You're mad about Virginia Tech. You're mad about Wake. You're mad about Boston College. And then all of a sudden you get to this game and all sins are forgiven.
There are fewer things that you can depend on with Dave Doeren, but beating the shit out of Carolina is one thing he always delivers on. Now we're going to finish 7-6 because the next thing he delivers on is a loss in a bowl game.
Yeah,
However, tonight we beat those blue bastards like they haven't seen for years.
And at some point, you have to make peace with who Dave is. At some point.
You think after 13 seasons, 13
Don't
seasons,
get yourself caught up in the cycle.
That's my question. At this point, after 13 seasons, you don't need individual results to help guide you with your decision making. Ultimately, the person who decides the direction of the athletic department and what the expectations should be and getting everybody in that buzzword alignment is on Boo Corrigan, the AD.
I actually would take it a step higher. I don't think it's on Boo Corrigan. I think it's on Kevin Howell, the new chancellor.
Okay.
I think that's where the direction has to come from.
And there we are, Joe.
And here we are.
Here we are. Here we
right
are.
Back where we started. The year of Dave.
So, before we have some closing thoughts, how are we going to handle 2026 and the Dave Doeren cycle?
Well, there's going to be a lot of taps sign. Because we have it now.
We do have the sign.
Thanks to our friends at Color Graphic.
Shout out to Color Graphic.
Amazing job. Shit, they got an eventful year next year.
Yeah.
They go to Brazil. Right?
For a conference game against Virginia this time.
Yeah. They get
Is Brazil ready for the Law of the Wolf?
They get App State here.
Oh man.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
They go to Nashville. If maybe Diego Pavia at 40 years old will be Vanderbilt's starting quarterback. I don't know.
Dude, that's one thing we didn't talk about when I was in Nashville for that hockey tournament is that Diego Pavia is like on all the billboards.
We might have to take the show to Nashville. See?
I'm not opposed to that. Scotty knows some spots we can go to.
They obviously will get another run at the Vortex because those are their permanent partners.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's at least some different things on there.
There are,
right?
But there are. You're right. However,
Brazil and Nashville feel different for me. App State finally getting to play App State feels different.
No,
because it's not ECU.
Those things are different, but that's still the same. The cycle of Dave Doeren.
Well, then you just have to sign.
And the challenge that I have for myself, the challenge for this podcast is how we can't do this again. We can't do this again. So if I'm sitting here saying you have to be at peace with who Dave Doeren is and what this program is under Dave Doeren, and you have been saying you have to be at peace.
I made peace after the Maryland loss
with
2022.
Yep. Then this podcast has to be at peace. And I'm not going to, this is my promise to you, the audience. There will not be a headline, Doeren Dilemma. There will not be a headline of what's next for Dave.
Don't get yourself.
No, we're done.
Okay.
We're done. I'm done. Okay. Now, if you want to break more news on the OG, by all means, break the news. Don't shoot or shoot, Joe. Shoot or shoot. Okay. So don't stop shooting. Don't stop trying to break news. Okay.
They get Cal here, Duke here, Louisville here, Wake here. They go to Carolina, to Stanford. Oh, I didn't realize they played James Franklin next year.
Oh, yeah, man. It's all there for more of this. But, hey, man.
Manny.
We're done. We're done. We're done with that. We'll find new ways to talk about it. And maybe every Monday we'll just tap the sign and move on and just explain to you where we are in the Dave Doeren cycle. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for the year in review 2025. We did it again, Joe. What does 2026 have in store for us? The triangle always delivers. The triangle always delivers.
Oh, yeah. You kind of glossed over our whole summer of Triangle Good. Like,
and then how good we looked based on explaining to everybody what triangle was.
Yeah.
It's fun. We had a good year. We did well. And thanks to everyone. And now we're going to have our listener appreciation episode. But yeah, Courtesy Driver, Ken, Todd, Paul, all of our regulars, Chris, all of our regulars who chime in and give us oxygen tea for all of the links that he sends us and takes care of us.
He is relentless in my DMs. Oh, and shout out to Joseph in Wake Forest. I like to call him the Carolina ombudsman.
Yeah.
Keeps me on my toes when it comes to Carolina stuff. I appreciate that.
He does. We get good calls from him. So, Jeannie.
Oh, Jeannie's the best. Jeannie's the best. No, in all seriousness, thanks to everybody for making 2025 another successful year for OG Media. We've done some things. We've moved on from some stuff. The beauty of the format is we can work on some things. Sometimes some things work, some things don't. We can take some chances. If it doesn't work, no big deal. We move on to the next thing. We had some mixed results with events this year. Again, we'll continue to try that with different things, pop-up events. Hey, shout out to everybody who bought stuff from us.
Wow.
Okay.
We had a really good year on merch.
Yeah. Like the Drunk Wolf. That's another thing that I want to do for 2026 is that I need to get a drunk pig ready to go.
Morgan?
Yes. We need him.
The drunk's not drunk. The pig's not drunk.
No, we need a drunk version of him.
Oh.
Because I have a feeling we're going to need another drunk version for May.
I got you.
See what you're saying. Are you picking up what I'm putting down?
Morgan's lovely.
I agree.
He's adorable.
He is
adorable.
adorable.
I hear what you're saying.
But we need a drunk version of him because
I'm catching on.
But I almost feel like it's not a drunk version. I almost feel like it might be Morgan at a computer hammering out tweets and Blue Sky posts and Reddit posts about how this team just isn't going to get over the hump with Rod Brindamore. Maybe that's the move,
Yeah.
With a hockey beer stick in hand.
I got a Christmas assignment for you because,
it is Christmas, Joe.
I have an assignment for you, though.
Okay.
When you say,
I know the calendar says December 16th, but it's Christmas.
When you say, how did we do in 2025? At home, I will open up our episodes, watch the most recent one and figure out, do a little scouting, right? And then sometimes it'll jump around. Sometimes it just goes in order, YouTube. Sometimes it jumps around. So Saturday morning, I'm sitting there watching most recent episode. Cool. Kind of took a nap. I wake up. The very first episode was on.
Oh, God.
And I am watching it. First of all, I'm relatively skinny. I was like, what the hell happened there?
Oh, that's always been, as I was going through all the clips, as Doeren Gant joked, I have the Carolina Panthers of beards. Not very consistent. Not very consistent.
So I'm watching that first episode and I'm like, why did anyone follow us?
Why?
To this format?
Why? What was wrong
That was my question.
What was wrong with the first show?
I want you to watch it.
It's not bad.
And then I want you to realize how much better we are right now in 2025 than we were.
Joe,
in our shock. Buddy, you were drinking Blanton's at 8:42 in the morning. You get on my ass for having 2 shorties, okay? All I'm saying is go back and watch it and see it for yourself.
No.
And you'll realize how much better we are now.
Nope.
I will tell you that.
We were literally doing the show from Kelly's. I was doing the show from Kelly's office and your living room.
Watching these year-long. Now, maybe we cherry-picked our wins. Yeah, we had a good fucking year, man. We did pretty damn good. So I say thank you to our audience for taking care of us in the way that they do and for sticking with us.
Yeah.
After that first however many episodes. Till we got here at least. It's okay, man. It's okay. Little self-scout's okay.
All right. I self-scout all the time. It's not that big of a deal. It's actually one of our most viewed episodes, I think. But regardless, we'll be back for our New Year's edition of this. We'll do an OG audit. I know some of y'all like a little behind the scenes, numbers, all that kind of stuff. Almost like a Spotify Wrapped, if you will, for the podcast. And of course, we are looking for your listener moments. So just call the OG Sports phone.
You sure you don't want to do 6 more minutes?
No, we're done.
You just don't want to get there?
No, we're done.
It's like quitting.
No, you're done.
We had like 11 beers. Now we're quitting.
You're done. We'll also have to edit some stuff too.
Oh, okay.
So it's not like we're not, there's a little accordion effect here.
Okay.
That's going to happen. Also, you're about to nap. So
no, I'm alive.
Because I know as we get closer to 3 o'clock, that's the
we're way past my peak nap time. My peak nap time is like 1:30.
Yeah, so we're beyond that. We're beyond that. All right, folks. We'll see you for the OG mailbag OG audit next week. Merry Christmas.